A great Sunday evening to you here on the Marcia Weeks Show. A pleasure to welcome all of you that are joining us this evening from whatever part of the world that you're joining us today. We'd be happy to hear from you. I see, Sir Alfred, you're on from Brooklyn, New York City. Excuse me. Monica, great to have you with us this evening. Joseph Cadogan, wonderful to have you with us as well. Just checking to make sure everything is up and running well. Tracy Barrow, great to have you with us as well. Pleasure. Remian 6070, thank you for sharing so much and helping us with this process. We really do appreciate it. But we want to welcome all of you to a great night. Good night to all of you. Good night, Merlene. Great to have you with us as well. We're looking forward to a great night. I am just going to be playing host tonight. Tonight is really KEMAR's night and the youth night. And we want to hear what the young people think about governance, our government, what they think about our economy, what they think about the future. We want to be able to hear from them. And so KEMAR is going to be really taking the night and he's going to be handling the night. So I'm just going to wait for his arrival into the back room so that I can bring him on as soon as he possibly can. Of course, we are looking forward to being joined as well by the General himself, Mr. Caswell Franklin. But it is my distinct pleasure to be able to host this show again tonight. I don't normally do the Sunday nights. I normally just do the Mondays, but there's been a significant event occurring in the life of Marcia, and as a result, I have been mandated with with the responsibility of handling the last couple of nights and tonight as well. Rochelle, good night to you too. Joseph, good night, and don't forget, if you're not in Barbados, would you please let us know where you're signing in from? We'd really like to hear it. And let me help you tonight as well to remain as civil as possible. And any questions that arise out of tonight, you can just put them right here in the chat and I will put it up and we'll see with regards to Caswell and KEMAR handling them that they'll be able to answer them. So just want to make sure that everything is running well, that you're hearing me good and clear, that we have a good and clear image. We want to make sure that we do our best in presenting a good show and make sure that you are hearing and seeing us well. So just confirm that for me. If you're hearing us well, you're seeing us well, just to be sure that everything is coming through to you a-okay, whether it be on Facebook or YouTube. Great to see all of you. As you know, we're dealing with some issues here in Barbados. Last time we were together on Friday night, we had an extensive period on the Samoa Agreement. We didn't get a lot of time to spend on the matter to do with the economy and some other aspects that we were looking at on Friday evening. And tonight we have quite a few. Thank you so much. Glad to hear you're hearing us well. Good night, Pauline from Maryland. Wow, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And of course, as you know, ladies and gentlemen, we want you to share, share, share. Okay, we want you to share, 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 and encourage you to give Marcia the thumbs up. I think there's something to do with the thumbs up and the positioning of her show on YouTube. I think the more thumbs up you get, the closer to the front of the line, so to speak, you get. And we want to make sure that Marcia is doing such a great job in educating and alerting us to a number of matters within Barbados. And as you know, we are also dealing with the matters of the common comprehensive sexuality education. We are dealing with matters to do with the Child Protection Bill. And upcoming, I want to put this up right now, upcoming this coming weekend will be a symposium for those of you in Barbados. There will be a symposium at the First Baptist Church on Constitution Road. They'll be addressing issues of family, gender, and sexuality in Barbados and the Caribbean. We have some esteemed speakers. We have our own Corey Beckles, attorney at law from here in Barbados. We have Bishop Dr. Vincent Gill from Trinidad and Tobago from the TT response team. They did a tremendous job during the pandemic, dealing with the pandemic, dealing with the treatments and so on. We also have attorney at law from Barbados, Davida Maynard Holligan, who is leading the charge and made the presentation to the Committee on the Child Protection Bill. We also have, I believe, from Jamaica, Philippa Davies, attorney at law as well. So you have 3 attorneys at law and you have a bishop so far. We also have Glenn Stanton, I think it is Stanton, from Focus on the Family. That's a well-known, highly respected organization that deals with values, morals, and so on. And then we have Dr. Ann. Dr. Ann, let me make sure I get that. I think it's Gillers. I'll get it right. She is a therapist and author from Canada. And these will be sharing in the upcoming symposium at the First Baptist Church, Constitution Road, Friday, December the 8th, commencing at 6:30 p.m. And then on Saturday, December the 9th, beginning at 9 o'clock and going through the morning, through the day, and then again at 6:30 in the evening. There will be workshops for youth parents, for community and church leaders, plus new scenes from the NIFCA Disqualified Praise Academy Speak Live production. They will also be sharing some aspects there as well. So we want to encourage you, if you're in Barbados, you're going to want to register. Now, let me see if I can put up the link here that you can go to. I'll just try to put it in the chat that you can go to and you can register. You do need to register. The symposium is free. There's no charge for the symposium, but you do need to register. We only have a limited space, and so we want to encourage you to register early. There's limited room, and so you will need to register early. All right, so I'm just going to put this up along the bottom there. Let me make sure I get the right one here. Right, there it is, the marciaweekshow.com /forum/ and you will be able to register at that location. I'll see if I can at least pull it up here for you and show you the page. Just let me see. I think I can. Let me see if I can pull that up. I may have to stop sharing some other things. Let me see. Still learning all of the fantastic technological aspects that we have. Okay, so there we are. This is the registration area, the registration link there. That's it. You can see there who the speakers are. Just let me make sure I take it right, right up. Okay. You can see there. Let me see here. Dr. Vincent Gill, Philippa Davies, attorney at law. You will see. Okay, Recover Symposium. That's your form. Your form will require you to choose your title, Mr., Mrs., or whatever, your name, your email, your telephone number if you are affiliated with any church group. Those are the areas there, and of course you just hit the submit button, and that registration will go straight in to the Marcia Weeks information, and they will register you there for the symposium. So that's this coming Friday. December that would be December the 8th and December the 9th. You will be able to register for the symposium. As I mentioned, space is limited, and so you need to really get in there early. All right. Let me just share a couple other uh, videos advertising the show here.
Friends in Barbados, you're warmly invited to attend an upcoming weekend symposium entitled Recover All, addressing the issues of family, gender, and sexuality. My name is Philippa Davies, an attorney at law from Jamaica, and I will be speaking on the roots and fruits of the so-called sexual rights agenda and how we can contend for truth in the public space. I'll also share on how marriage and family life God's way can reduce crime, improve public health, and boost GDP. The symposium starts on Friday, December 8 at 6:30 p.m., continuing on Saturday, December 9 at 9 a.m., and will be held at First Baptist Church, Constitution Road. Registration is free, but you have to register by Wednesday, December 6 online at themarciaweeksshow.com. Please come out to be educated, edified, and equipped. The battle to preserve the image of God, the Imago Dei, is raging, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Looking forward to seeing you.
Indeed, we're looking forward to seeing Philippa and also all the other guests, all the other speakers. We're looking forward to having them with us in that symposium. So remember registration by this coming Wednesday. That would be is the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th December. I think that would be December 4, 5, 6 by December the 6th, and you can register and have your seat reserved. There's no cost. You just need to register because of the limited space. All right. So just keep sharing. We're up to 141. Good night to you, Jelbiz and Mystic Angel. Good to have you back. ADG, great to have you again. Mark Clark and Monica Ince, nice to have you. I think Paula Maynard is here. Everton Hunt. Good night, all from Birmingham. Wow, Colin Clark, welcome, sir. Great to have you on. And Pauline, we see you two are from Maryland. We have someone else that's from Maryland as well. A real pleasure to have all of you with us tonight. We're looking forward to an exciting night. Sir Alfred Benjamin, you're out of Brooklyn, New York. Yes, good night to all of our loyal patriots. We welcome you to this show tonight. We're looking forward to a great night. KEMAR is in the room. We're going to be bringing him in just a moment so that he can begin early, and we will be joined by Caswell and some other guests that KEMAR will have on tonight. So remember, please share. Let's get it out there. Let's get the others on to the show tonight so that when KEMAR begins to share, I tell you, there is some information that he'll be sharing tonight you're not going to want to miss. You're going to want to make sure that you have your system all linked in and everything to hear what KEMAR is going to be sharing with us tonight. So please, I'm just waiting till we get up to at least 150, and then I will be bringing him in. And during the time that he is in, we ask you to continue sharing that we can have a good night tonight. We're up to 144 persons. I'm just looking for that magic number of 150. Once we get that magic number, I'll be bringing him in. If I don't get a magic number within a couple of minutes, I'm going to bring him in anyhow. Yes, please like and share the link. Thank you for that great advice. I'm still learning, loyal patriots, how to use all this technology. I'm not used to StreamYard as much as I am to Zoom, but I am learning a lot about StreamYard. I still have to learn how to get my picture out of the way so that when I put up those ads, I'll be off to the side rather than hidden. I don't know if that can be done, but I'm sure that I will find out in the not too distant future. So please share the link. You just have to click on that YouTube area and it will tell you. You can either copy the link and put it into WhatsApp or put it into your Facebook page and let people just click on it, and they will be brought straight here to the Marcia Week Show on YouTube. Good evening, ND. Good to have you with us tonight as well. Pleasure to have all of you joining us from around the world, Birmingham and Maryland and Brooklyn. So far, I know well, we're up to 155. So I said I was going to bring KEMAR in once we hit that magical number of 150, and I want to be a man of my word. So we want to welcome you, KEMAR, to the show tonight. It's another joy to have you on, sir. And I'm going to be turning it over to you. We're up to 160 at the moment. I'm going to be turning it over to you in just a moment. As soon as you're ready, you can always just let me know, and I'll be turning it up over to you and be guided by you accordingly, because I know there's quite a lot of stuff that you have to share tonight. So keep coming, folk. 158. Our KEMAR is in the house. He is in the house, author of Alternative Views, and a brilliant young man that we admire, that all of us on this platform are learning from on an ongoing basis. I know that Caswell as well, learning from you, KEMAR. So great to have you on the show tonight, sir. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show, Sunday evening, December the 3rd. Are you there? I'm hearing someone, but I'm not hearing you. Hearing a voice.
Hi,
But
Pat.
there you are.
Hi, Pastor Ferdinand.
Hi, KEMAR. Welcome to the Marcia Week Show. A real pleasure to have you again tonight.
It's a pleasure
You were good just okay.
to be
Yeah,
here
I'm
with you on
hearing
this
you now. Yeah.
discussion as usual.
Go right ahead. It's your night. I'm just going to sit back and run the controls. That's all. That's what I'm going to do.
Here, but it's
Still
coming through a little bit slow on the stream, so your voice is breaking up and oh.
okay. Not sure. We have a pretty strong
You hear
system
me?
here where I am. Yeah, I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you. Yes. Yes, we're hearing you loud and clear. What I'll probably do is just turn my camera off a minute, and you can tell me
All
whether
right.
you're hearing me any
Well,
better.
nice Sunday. Yeah, I'm hearing you much better. I don't know what's happening here at all. Pastor Ferdinand.
Yes, I'm here. I'm here, hearing you good. You're going and coming, but that could be like a buffering aspect with flow.
Yes.
Yeah, could be. Well, we'll just go ahead because we are hearing you,
All
so
right.
you
Well, I
can go
am
right
actually
ahead.
switching connections now because they're not coming through smoothly on my side.
Okay, okay. Let me bring you in. Let me bring you in from that one.
Could you? I sending off this one and sending it to another device because
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
How about now?
yeah. We got you loud and
Right,
clear right there, right there, right, loud and clear.
right. This is much better for me as well. Right.
Wonderful.
Um,
If you have your headphones, because I can hear a little echo in the back of my voice. I don't know if you have a headphones or if you're using speakers. If you have headphones, it would probably be better to use the headset.
right. I have headphones. I have any headphones.
Yeah, I'm hearing some feedback in the back room.
Right. Clearer.
Yep, good and clean, good and clean. Even the lovely picture of you there in that I don't know what they call that, whatever they call it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so as I was saying, we're here on a beautiful Sunday. So always glad to be on the Marcia Big Show. Good evening to Marcia, Caswell, Dave, Mamba, Bongo Lakes, Winston, everybody, all the persons who attend to say Parliament um, every Sunday or if there's a march every Saturday. Um, Thank you very much for that. And I look forward to engaging with this evening. We have a whole host of young people coming on the show. We have
Wonderful.
Roger Williams, and he's based in Trinidad.
Hmm.
We have uh, McHugh Winfield, he's based in Barbados. And we have Jonathan, he be coming on as well, our Jonathan.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we have one more young person who'll be joining us as well at 8. So we look forward to chatting with them
Uh-huh.
and having a good discussion. This evening, I wanted to start on as we just passed independence and we're still focusing on preserving our independence. I wanted to play a clip, one that I did last year, uh, discussing the independence economic order of Barbados
Hmm.
and what the day of independence will signify for Barbados under this new republican system. So uh, I just want persons to listen to it, take some note. I will engage in questions or comments after, but I want you to listen very keenly to what we are losing economically uh, in our journey to republic, and it is a much worse trade-off going the Republican way than going the independence way. So I just allow you to listen to it, and then we move on from there.
Okay, well, you can just confirm for me that you're hearing it okay. I have it up on the screen. So here we go.
Alternate views. Barbados' economic road post-republic. The independence economic order.
Are you hearing that okay? Just
Yes,
confirming.
perfect.
I just paused it to make sure. Um, I see Joyanne is saying that there's some little echoing in the background and that she can't hear you as clearly. So, but we'll probably come back to that after the clip. All right. So, just wanted to confirm. So here we go.
Barbados National Day represents the death of government-led socialist values in Barbados. It is a transition over to a new economic management style of governance, where the trappings of the old independent subsidized social services government begins to crumble. Citizens will be required to pay more to fund their basic living necessities, as government can't continue to subsidize the cost of providing some goods and services and at the cost of Barbadians. International debt service and IMF terms and conditions are already eroding the independence economic model, as Barbados now looks to China for social investment to fund our new international lifestyle. A lifestyle without God, where the innocent are exposed to international banks who violate directives by government ministries. The political approach of government has left out a national agenda for developing the economy for locals, similar to the policies of the local conservatives who ruled Barbados before the independence era in the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Since May 2018, the structure of the Barbados economy has taken a fundamentally different path that at most times clashes with the expectations of Barbadians who benefited from the independence era of parliaments in this country. The independence economy allowed the state to spend resources on the masses by building out the social services sectors and rolling out socialist economic policies to benefit all of Barbados. The Barbados National Day has no hope attached to it, as Barbados has to repay 829 million to the IMF by 2029 with no clear strategy as to how the country will balance debt service while still spending adequate money into the different ministries. Barbados had to sign another IMF program to continue its first incomplete program. International credit rating agencies issue statements to the effect that Barbados will only get credit upgrades if they continue into another IMF program to continue to borrow additional billions, and Barbados complied. The public sector of Barbados was built on the foundations of the Independence Order, which guarantees workers hired by the government their full legal rights enshrined in law. The Barbados independence era gave rise to the public service, which guaranteed employment opportunities in various ministries of government, such as health, transport, roadworks, tourism and telecoms, housing, education, sanitation, drainage, care for the elderly, agriculture, law, just to name a few. Apart from the provision of jobs in the seaweed program, the ash program, and the COVID-19 pandemic, there has been no productive growth of jobs since the signing of the IMF program within the government of Barbados. When COVID hit, the government of Barbados appointed an economic advisory council, which was led by former Prime Minister Arthur, and its aim was to create 20,000 jobs. However, this was a political stunt and simply not possible. The government attempted to recreate the 1994 to 2003 era, where massive increases in government departments/government jobs occurred in this country. Barbados signed on to the IMF agreement, which promises to reduce employment in all ministries by reducing the wage bill, which stays at $850 million, cutting and merging government departments, placing high-level civil servants on contracts, cutting pension and social benefits from government to government workers, creating unfair environments for unionized workers, implementation of taxes on health care, implementation of garbage and sewage tax on water bills, a hike in bus fares to $2.50, then to privatize the transport board, the dreaded gas tax, increases in land taxes, compulsory acquisition of lands with payments in bonds, the leasing out of the Grant Leonards International Airport, the leasing out of Harrison's Cave, and a planned privatization of the Barbados Water Authority, not to mention the recent rate increase by the Barbados Lit in Power. In planning Barbados' economic policy, the makers determined that the independence economic model has created too many dependents on the Barbadian state for social mobility. The IMF is on record stating that Barbados' social programs are too generous to its citizens. Hence, as far back as Barbados' first IMF program under Prime Minister Erskine Sandiford, the IMF at the time recommended that the public service of Barbados be cut massively or face currency devaluation of the 2 to 1 dollar peg to the US currency. 30 years later, in 2021, Barbados, in order to protect that currency peg, borrowed 1.7 billion US to avoid an external devaluation. Barbados is on record to achieve its second year of foreign exchange loss to the tune of close to $2 billion. Therefore, foreign debt levels will continue to rise to plug this hole. Much like Prime Minister Sandiford in 1987 to 1994 and Prime Minister Short from 2008 to 2018, external debt service will choke any future administration elected between the periods of 2027 to 2037. To make matters worse, local debt service from the debt restructuring will also spike. All of these factors cut against the crust and core of both Labour parties, whom built their foundations on providing employment, workers' rights and representation, national insurance, severance and pension legislation, free healthcare, access to finance and credit, access to low-income housing and lands, access to free education, access to adequate water and waste facilities. The Arthur job creation model was driven by foreign direct investment and borrowing from both local and international capital markets. In 1994, the IADB lent Barbados funding under the investment sector loan. This was merely for a pittance of $35 million, which saw the opening up of Barbados to large sums of foreign money from international capitalists that gave non-nationals the rights to purchase large tracts of land for development in Barbados. This agreement was signed by Arthur as former Prime Minister Erskine Sandiford and David Thompson, as Minister of Finance, refused to sign this legislation, while Barbados was under an IMF program between 1991 to 1994. This legislation destroyed the spirit of the Tenantry Freehold Purchase Act by Tom Adams, which was revolutionary to land ownership by Barbadians. The ownership of prime agricultural lands was sold to build hotels, multi-million-dollar housing estates, and golf courses. In the modern era, agricultural lands are being leased to foreign investors, mainly from Canada, to grow medicinal marijuana in Barbados. The continuation of tourism services and the tourism services economy, where government provides tax concessions to large hotel brands, has expired, hence why they had to repeal the fiscal incentives bill. COVID has broken tourism services to the point of record-breaking losses of foreign exchange. Barbados went through an economic boom after 1994, where the average employee with a university degree or a businessman who was able to attract middle income earnings moved himself to higher social classes. However, he did so via debt in residential mortgages and car loans to banks, whom in 2022 are all foreign owned. The current cost of living, government's high personal income tax rates, and personal debt service are crippling these middle income earners. Therefore, the working poor is growing in Barbados. To end with a quote, the 2016 budget of former Minister of Finance Chris Sinclair, he declared that managing in these times has been difficult because, contrary to popular belief, solutions are far and few, fiscal space is limited, economic diversification is practically non existent, preferential market access is a thing of the past, structural debt is high, development assistance is low, and social protection and development, the springboard to our social post independent success, is becoming more burdensome to carry in the face of declining revenues. Barbados National Day was an attempt to usher in a new mindset engineered by the structural changes of BERT and soon BERT 2.0. And in the face of a 30-love parliamentary majority with no opposition, censorship, despotic rule, and rogue governmental practices, the continued state of emergency renders Barbados a prime ministerial dictatorship. Alternate views, Barbados' economic road post-republic. I am KEMAR Stewart. Thank you.
Pastor Ferdinand. Well, I'm not getting Pastor Ferdinand clearly on the
Oh,
screen. So
sorry. I had my mic muted while that was going on. It's all yours, sir. Go right ahead.
no, well, I mean you can join in here as well because it's just me and you for
Sure,
now. But
sure. No problem. No
yeah,
problem.
so I would have played the clip there to allow the viewers to get a firm understanding of what economic perspective is all about. Like Barbados repealing the independence order that was given to us with El Barro, we essentially gave up all of the economic systems which made us independent. So we're not just giving up independence by switching out the queen for a local head of state, but we're actually giving over our country's independence by signing on to IMF agreements. This is the third IMF agreement that we've signed on to. And we showed you last time where the charts, the debt situation that Barbados is in, and how Barbados cannot be the fastest growing economy in the world. We dispelled that myth. So Pastor Ferdinand has put here for us to see again the
Which one? You is it this one or this one I'm putting up there now? That one?
well for we could go back through it again for those persons who want to see it again because we got some requests. from persons to see the charts again
Mhm.
so that we understand essentially what we're facing. So here on the chart, it shows us the amount of money that we owe the IMF, the IDB, the World Bank, the Caribbean Development Bank. I look at the jump, and this is all under Prime Minister Mia Mottley as Minister of Finance in Barbados. So she actually tripled the debt owed to these institutions as opposed to the former Prime Minister from the short when he was Prime Minister. This figure that you see here, she actually borrowed more money over the, the 10-year period that the from the Stewart administration was in. She actually borrowed more money than they were in the 5, 6 years that she was in, as compared to the 10 years they were in. And you can see here a tripling of the debts put to the IMF and the World Bank and these institutions under her leadership. Right? That doesn't spell well for growth. Next slide, Pastor. This right here that we can see is the increase in foreign debt levels. This is the increase in foreign debt levels. So we were approximately $2.9 billion in debt at 2018, and by 2022 we are at $5.1 billion in foreign debt. So when you estimate it, that's about $4 billion that was borrowed under the Mia Mottley administration. Can you
Now,
see?
now
And
let me ask a question here. When you speak of foreign debt, is this including the International Monetary Fund, or is this debt apart from the International Monetary Fund
this is debt inclusive of the IMF.
on the IMF? Yes, just
And
so that everybody understands.
yes, this is debt inclusive of the IMF. For the foreign component of our borrowing. This is
Mhm,
not what we
mhm.
would have borrowed from the central bank or raised through bonds or from the national system. This is all national borrowing. What can you see in Barbados? Tangible benefits from all of the borrowing that we have had through the last couple of years with the government.
Well, I
Point to any
remember.
substantial industry
Mhm.
that there was increases in jobs, increase in capital growth, increase on returns, investment.
Mhm.
Show me any industry, agriculture, international business. Show me where you see Barbadians getting jobs at a massive rate that you can say that the economy was going, or show me where there were substantial wage increases in any sector, or where there were any decreases in taxes in any sector. Show me where there were cuts in the cost of living, in the prices of the supermarket, prices, utilities, food. In fact, there were increases in all of those areas because the government has agreed to internally devalue the Barbados dollar. Two components to devaluation, which is the internal component and the external component of devaluation. The external component means that you will have to change the currency peg, but the government does not want to go that route. So what they agreed to do was to internally devalue the dollar, which is to increase prices, because as prices increase, taxation collection will be increased because taxation is charged as a percentage of price. So every time the prices go up, government benefits in terms of government revenues. So you would hear the governor of the central bank constantly saying that the government benefited from an inflation dividend. And the inflation dividend means that consumers were paying high prices, so therefore government revenues increased substantially. So the rate of inflation in Barbados was substantially higher
than any level or record of economic growth in Barbados since even before COVID. As I said, the Barbados economy went down, decreased for 8 consecutive periods before COVID. Then it tanked massively during COVID. Right? So the clip shows us that traditionally where we would have had local Barbadian institutions, which would have been the Central Bank of Barbados, where we borrowed money from, government print money through the central bank, have the national insurance scheme, where part of the national insurance portfolios is to invest in government bonds and treasury bills. Then there was the treasury bill kit, where people could have directly bought treasury bills from the government to invest. Barbadians could have bought treasury bills to invest to help finance government operations. Then there was the financial system, like the credit unions and the banks and the insurance firm and the finance houses and companies and corporations. They traditionally lent government money. However, during the IMF program and the debt restructuring, the government hit those particular persons so hard by just writing off the debt that they owed to the government. And it saw the NIS losing over $1 billion. It saw the
Yes.
central bank. It saw the central bank in itself having $1.6 billion in a financial hole. And part of the IMF program is for the government of Barbados to find $1.6 billion to recapitalize the central bank of Barbados, along with the recapitalization of the NIS fund.
That's
Right?
approximately $2.9 billion you say they have to find.
Yes, to replenish the holes from the debt restructuring.
Well, you mentioned something about, and I think someone had it up here a little earlier. What do we have to show for all of this borrowing? I think they're asking, is Barbados any better off from all this borrowing? And please correct me, Kimar, if I'm wrong, but isn't it true that shortly after the first successful campaign in 2018, that the government borrowed 260 some $1 million for road rehabilitation, and then subsequently, I think, borrowed another 300 million. Was it from the Chinese for
It was
roadworks? Am I correct in that, somewhere in that ballpark? Wouldn't that be over $500 million to refurbish our infrastructure, roads, and so on?
Yeah, that's approximately for those two, but there was other capital works, uh, monies allocated via government's budget to do road works.
Along with the money that was borrowed to do roadworks?
Yes, it was over 400 and some million from the Chinese to do road rehabilitation in the Scotland district area.
Hmm. Hmm. Do we have anything to see where that, any beginning of any road works? Is there anything to show that you are aware of?
But they said that the Chinese actually abandoned the road project in St. Andrew, and there was a public test between the residents in the area saying that the Chinese actually abandoned the road work. And then the government went down there with the cameras trying to spin the story. But as far as I know, they abandoned. I don't know if they're back on the project, but no. But the road works were abandoned in St. Andrew.
Someone is asking, I'm going to put it up here, uh, or making the statement to do with inflation is making things more expensive. On top of that, this BLP increased taxes on everything. Prices on utilities are up. Now people have to pay for services that were free. What services would Emerson be referring to, KEMAR, in terms of having to pay for services that were free? Because I do know that my son was recently in the QEH, and as a result of blood clots, and he was advised that there was a procedure he would have to take that may have cost him. So I am familiar with that.
Yeah, well, you are right. You have to pay for healthcare. In some instances, so the government is creating what you call a fee system, and this fee system is basically point of sale system, which is the first part of privatization, where the users of the services will have to pay direct fees as opposed to putting a tax. So those persons who go to the hospitals will just pay for whatever services they get. And there are facilities where I see people having to pay huge hospital bills for treatment that otherwise would have been free in previous years. So I know that talent. Uh, we are also paying for access for garbage and sewage. We are also paying in access for travel, because there's a departure tax that they put on people traveling to the Caribbean or from the Caribbean, and every time you board a plane, you have to pay a tax. Then there was the tax at the gas pump, right? There were increases in land taxes.
Yes, that I know for sure because I've got my land tax bill. Is it true that they're considering applying a charge to land tax on the basis of market value?
Well, I am not certain about that one. I will have into that.
Because
And
I understand as well that a reclassification of property in St. Philip caused a massive increase in land tax for some of the farmers up there that are dealing with chickens and so on. Um, that was my understanding. I'd seen that come up not long ago.
well, that could be part of the senior land zoning policy um,
Yes.
through the changes to the Barbados Water Authority Amendment Act, which would now change the zones of some of the zone one lands, which will now go into zone A or zone B lands. That would definitely change the values of some lands and therefore require a reclassification of the tax, the application of the tax.
Mhm.
So persons have to clarify by the changes in the zones where or how their land is viewed by the government, so that there will be no misunderstanding in terms of valuation from the government side and from your side, because then people will start to lose properties uh, because they will be required to pay the government significant more sums than they can. And as you saw in the newspaper recently, there were so many properties being auctioned off by the
Yes.
BRA,
Yes, I saw that.
right? So it shows you that something is definitely up in Barbados when it comes to housing and land. And as a person who, well, I am a real estate agent, so I could tell you about the market as it relates to housing and lands. So many lands that Barbadians own are up for sale right now because they can't afford to pay the land taxes on them. Right? So many Barbadians are losing their homes because they can't afford to maintain houses. We have many expats who left Barbados and left houses here. Uh, and then on top of that, the foreclosure rate in the banking system is on the increase because the mortgage departments and the banks are also taking out houses because people are defaulting on mortgage payments. So the economic squeeze is on, especially since the government increased the tax band, the income tax band to 40% on middle income earners in their budget, in mini budget. Right? So right now, people cannot get back their 1300 plans from the government, and the government is holding on to whatever money they owe the people because they signed what you call a debt settlement bill. And the debt settlement bill says that whatever the government owes you, whatever financial liability the government owes you, could it be legal, medical, property, that they can issue what they call Series J bonds and defer the payment to you and pay you in Series J bonds. Right? So that's what the government is doing. So I even got information because some persons who had to face this travesty called me and they said that the welfare checks for the recipients of the welfare checks, the monies has been cut significantly. So the checks went from around 300 and some dollars to $90, 90 something dollars
Wow. Wow.
in in the space of a month.
Wow.
And you heard the Minister for People Empowerment saying that they intend to build homeless shelters all over Barbados. Why would you be building homeless shelters all over Barbados as opposed to housing, providing Barbadians with proper housing? Where are you going to get homeless people all over Barbados to put in these homeless shelters unless you plan to create the homeless to put them in there?
Well, if you're taking away their lands and their properties and auctioning them off, where are they going to be left to live?
Well, that is what we are facing. Those are the policies on the table. And through the changes in the IMF program, the government gave up its independence. And that is why, if you listen to the former Prime Minister, anything he constantly spoke about the fact that Barbados was one of the few countries who managed to weather through the global financial crisis in 2008. And that is because we had sovereign institutions that could have provided us a bailout when we were in trouble. And these institutions were the NAS, the Central Bank of Barbados, and the people of Barbados through investment in treasury bills. So when the time comes down to repay the IMF, do you see where the burden is going to come directly on the people? They're going to increase the taxation directly at the people to gain whatever revenues to pay back the IMF and the World Bank and the central bank and the NAS and those institutions that traditionally helped us cannot do anything about it to help Barbados as a country. So
Ricky
we
Straight.
lost that when the government
Mhm.
passed these changes. And I'm going to read piece of the legislation from the Central Bank Amendment Act 2020 when they basically stopped the government from printing money. And the legislation basically hinted that whenever a crisis arises, that the government cannot be printing more than, I think it was 10% of GDP or so in investment from the central bank, which actually ties the hands of the central bank and stops the central bank from intervening in crises when the government has a need. The changes to the NAS also stops that where when the government or the NAS board could have bought these treasury bills, they allow investment through the replenishing the treasury bills to go back in the NAS. The government cut that and says, well, the NAS will not be allowed to invest in government paper any longer. And you cut these umbilical cords. Those were the umbilical cords which kept us during the global financial crisis. So we didn't have to go on the international markets and borrow to sink Barbados in debt. Like what the government did right now, at least when we look back, the debt the last tenure between 2008 and 2018 that was owed to domestic institutions, the central bank, the NAS, the people through treasury bills, and arrears to institutions and other Barbadian institutions. That is money that would have been kept in Barbados. So you have $1 billion in interest payments leaking out through Barbados. $1 billion leaving Barbados every year. No, 2037, going straight back to the IMF, the World Bank, the IDB. Those cuts have to come through the ministries where they have to cut health budgets, education budgets, the sport budget, the youth budget, the Ministry of Environment, the Ministry of Tourism. All ministries have to be cut in order to meet the requirements of the IMF program, and we do not have anybody to bail us out actually because we gave up our independence of our sovereign institution.
But KEMAR, some persons may ask, how are we paying back this debt? Because my understanding, and I was reading a report from a well-known economist in Barbados this evening, that we are technically borrowing money to pay debt, borrowing money to make up our foreign reserves, I believe it is. How does this affect us? Is it true, first of all, that we are borrowing money to pay our debt and to prop up our foreign reserves? And if so, how can we sustain that?
Well, it is not sustainable. The situation where we borrow debt to repay debt, it is what you call a perpetual debt cycle. So whenever debt becomes due, we then have to enter into these debt swaps, this climate swaps, allow the IMF and the US aid and the Rockefeller Foundation and the World Health Organizations and these types to buy over debt from you. The challenge with this is the conditionalities attached to those monies and the fact that you lose your sovereignty as a country. So you don't have the decision making power to say, well, as opposed to cutting back the ministries of government, we're going to seek uh, private capital and do development projects to be able to grow the economy, get the housing stock going, get jobs going, develop agriculture, develop renewable energy, develop fishing and cruising and aerospace travel, develop those industries to create jobs, to drive economic activity, drive jobs, and therefore drive economic growth.
But
That is
what
what
can
we
we
need,
but what
right?
can we do in terms of our foreign exchange earning? Because obviously, when we borrow money, and I'm no economist, I'm not even a financial person. I try to use my common sense. But when we borrow money, it comes into Barbados in the form of US currency, foreign exchange. And right now, what is it that generates foreign exchange that we as a country are earning? Not borrowing a KEMAR. What are we earning in terms of, for example, the tourism industry? What is the tourism industry contributing to the revenues of Barbados?
Well, the travel and tourism industry traditionally contributed over like $1 billion in revenues per year.
However, with the crash in COVID, I don't want to get it here because I spoke to this in alternate views as well. And Dr. Justin Robinson, he would have written a piece in the newspaper in which she would have been agreeing with the position that I put forward about Barbados and the loss of income from tourism and travel. And he said that the oh, I'll get it here. Wait. The tourism industry's collapse and subsequent slow rebound has left government with a near $1 billion financial problem, which an increased supply of foreign money is currently solving. And it is evident, which shows that the $958 million current account deficit policy payments at the end of September was also due to the increase in imports this year, especially for fuel. It went on to say later on in the speech, which you asked specifically about tourism, he said that the decline in foreign intake from tourism was 375 million at the end of September when compared to the same period last year, and the decline was 1.3 billion in 2020 versus 2019. So
That's
you
what
can
the
see the
governor, the
massive
central
drop
bank
off in
said.
tourism from 1.3 billion to 300.
That's what the governor, the central bank
Yeah,
said.
well, that's what Justin Robinson said.
Oh, Justin
Professor,
Robinson. Sorry.
right, that's what Justin Robinson also said. Professor Robinson, he said. So he also went on to speak a little bit about imports, exports. So, and he said that it is predicted that rebounding tourism activity in the fourth quarter will underpin strong services export to narrow the current account deficit. So to be honest, I've seen Mark Hill, who's the CEO of
Yeah.
BADC,
Yeah.
and the government has been trying to
Barbados
increase
export.
its exports as a means of earning foreign exchange. I see that. So you could give the government a compliment to try to increase export capacity.
But do we have the
So you were
resources?
saying,
Do
Charlie?
we have the um I'm just looking for the right word here.
Hello,
Yes, yeah, I'm hearing you.
Pastor Ferdinand.
Yeah, I'm hearing you. You're not hearing me?
Sorry, go. I lost you for a bit.
Okay, you're hearing me now though? Just making sure. Just let me ask the show if you all are hearing me. I just want to check and see. Uh, yeah, my system is still on. Are you hearing me on the show? Um, just want to be sure here. If you are hearing me clearly, just could you indicate that for us? We might be having a bit of technical issues in terms of your hearing. Thank you, Gilbis. Kemar's gone off. He'll be coming back in shortly, probably just to reboot. Um, but okay, here he is. Yes, Kemar, you're hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. No, I was asking the question. It's commendable that we are seeking to engage exports. And of course, I know Mark Hill myself quite well. But do we have the capability to generate the degree of export that we require in order to contribute to the debt repayment programs that we have in such a significant manner that we do not have to borrow to pay debt?
Well, we do not. We do not have the capacity to do it because we are at the point where the government is forced to start cutting its import bill to save foreign exchange, which will obviously result in price increases and shortages of imported goods. So the cuts will be a priority as the foreign reserves that they would have been borrowing will start to deteriorate faster than usual as they have to start borrowing more and more and more. to keep feeding the monster, which should be unsustainable. Right? So when it starts to impact fuel, and when it starts to impact the merchants, is when consumer goods will keep going up, and that is when you will start to see the rationing happening and prices starting to get out of control in Barbados. The next issue that we're not focusing on is the debt service. How much money we have to be paying out every year, otherwise being going back into Barbados economy to invest in it. So it's like you getting paid $400, and even before you get the money and you have 300 already get taken out already, and you only got $100 to spend. Right? In some instances, Barbados only got $20 to spend when everything is taken out. Right? So the challenge that we really have here, Pastor Ferdinand, is the IMF program allowed Barbados to have increased foreign reserves through borrowing to allow the merchants to have foreign exchange to do what they want and allow the government to buy fuel and whatever things necessary to the country. But these are high expenses. So what the borrowing is allowing the government to do is to focus on expenditure reduction and cutting. So they'll be achieving savings and savings and savings. So everything they cut and cut and cut. Remember, they're cutting against borrowed money, right? But you can't cut fast enough because you will do what they're doing, which is to hurt the people and allowing the merchants to jack up the prices. Because as I said earlier, taxation is charged as a percentage of price. So every time consumer prices go up, the government stands to benefit significantly, which is why the government will not tackle the cost of living issue in the country.
There's a comment here from Dale Reel. The rate of paying $1 billion a year until 2037 is 14 billion. Now my question is, how much money did this government borrow that brings this amount on the people of Barbados?
Well, we show them the charts. You need to put back at the chart one more time to show them exactly what the government has been doing in terms of borrowing so that you can see the massive spikes in debt. This is set to increase by another 1.6 billion, as was listed in the newspaper recently. You remember, Pastor Ferdinand?
Yes.
This chart goes to the end of 2022, but the financial year 2023 to 2024, they have already said they're going to borrow another 1.6 billion from the IMF. But this is what they did so far. Approximately $4 billion they would have borrowed already. And these are not my figures. These are figures. Well, it was created by my business, yes, the chart, but
the figures are quoted from the central bank.
Yes, directly from the central bank report.
Of Barbados, yes, I see that, yeah. Well, KEMAR, we have two of your guests, I think, in the waiting room. I want to bring them in, but just before I bring them in, if it's okay with you, I just want to share one of the ads to do with the symposium, because I did promise Marcia that we would do that. So in the break to bring them in, I'm just going to share that ad with us.
Friends in Barbados, you're warmly invited to attend an upcoming weekend symposium entitled Recover All, Addressing the Issues of Family, Gender, and Sexuality. My name is Philippa Davies, an attorney at law from Jamaica, and I will be speaking on the roots and fruits of the so-called sexual rights agenda and how we can contend for truth in the public space. I'll also share on how marriage and family life God's way can reduce crime, improve public health, and boost GDP. The symposium starts on Friday, December 8 at 6:30 p.m., continuing on Saturday, December 9 at 9 a.m., and will be held at First Baptist Church, Constitution Road. Registration is free. But you have to register by Wednesday, December 6th, online at the marciaweeksshow.com. Please come out to be educated, edified, and equipped. The battle to preserve the image of God, the Imago Dei, is raging, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Looking forward to seeing you.
Coming Friday and Saturday, this coming week here, Friday and Saturday, December the 8th, December the 9th, a symposium at the Baptist Church on Constitution Road. We have some really great guests coming in. Our own attorneys here, Corey Beckles, Davida, here from Barbados. We also have Dr. Vincent Gill coming in from Trinidad, Bishop Vincent Gill coming in from Trinidad. And we also have someone from the Focus on the Family, a renowned organization that will be coming in for that symposium at the end of the week. So we look forward to seeing you there. Space is limited, so you need to register ASAP. And just a limited space. You can go on the marciaweekshow.com and you can find the area there where you can register. I believe I had it in the chat, and I will try to find it while you are entertaining these colleagues of yours. We want to welcome. Let me get Jonathan in as well. We want to welcome all of you, fine young people, to the Marcia Weeks show. We welcome you, Jonathan. We welcome you, Roger. I hope I have that correct. And Mikhail, is that Mikhail? Do I have that correct? Or
Winfield, just say Winfield.
Winfield? Okay, then Winfield is fine. And I think you are in Trinidad. Is that right? You're in Trinidad?
No, Barbados.
You're in Barbados. Let me see, who's the person that's in Trinidad.
I am.
You are
Yes.
okay. You're in my third home. I have. Well, I used to call myself a Trini Bar Lucian because I used to live in Trinidad. My wife is St. Lucian, and I consider myself a Caricom man. But now I have another home in the Cayman Islands. I mean, I have to say that very carefully because then people think I'm really rich and I have a house up there. I just mean that I know a lot of people up there and I visit there regularly. So I really carry calm. But a pleasure to welcome you to the show tonight, and Jonathan as well. Pleasure to welcome you. First time, I believe, for all of you on the show. I believe I would be correct in saying so. And Mr. Winfield, a pleasure to welcome you as well. KEMAR, these
Yes.
are your guests. I know you all have a lot to discuss tonight, and I'm just going to get out of the way. I'll be around, I'll throw in a curveball here every now and again, but we are we are excited to hear. We're excited to hear from you guys as young people, young individuals. I think I am a little bit older than most of you, I believe. Not by much, but we want to hear your side of the story. How you see things. How do you see aspects to do with the economy, the standard of life, the indebtedness, the operation of government, the matters of transparency and accountability, and any other issues in terms of the declining values, our government's attitudes, in which there seems to be very little consultation with the people. And so I'm just going to turn it back to you, KEMAR, that you can go right ahead with your team.
Yeah, well, good night to the fellas. I'll let you officially introduce yourselves to the audience. Sure you met Pastor Ferdinand already.
Yes,
Happy
yes.
to happy to have you. So I will let Roger go first, and yeah.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I am starting to realize here that I'm the only non-Bayesian on this stream. I'm originally, so my name is Roger Williams. I'm originally from St. Kitts and Nevis, and I live in Trinidad and Tobago. I am a biochemist, and I'm currently a medical student. So that's about me. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you as another CARICOM man.
Yes.
All right. I still want to get that first name though, Winfield. It looks
McKill.
intriguing.
McKill.
Makel.
Yeah, McKill. Makil.
Makil. Makil.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I like that. I like that one. Makil. Yeah. Okay. Well, go right ahead and let us know a little bit about yourself, Makil.
Well, I'm 26 years of age. I consider myself as a career pursuing politician. I'm actually pursuing my dream actually of being on board with the Young Dems, the Army Democratic Labour Party. So I'm yet to register, but I'm so intrigued to politics in Barbados by following the footsteps of Mr. KEMAR Stewart down here. So, I've got a lot about it. My main focus is immigration control. I do believe that we need of an immigration drawdown for the rightful reason. I don't believe that we as a country should be very calm. I do have my reasons why, and I do believe that we have a very omnipotent nation leader, someone who just does it like none other and gets away with it scot free. And she's just really very blatant with it, but overseas you can see she's being praised for it because you can obviously tell that they don't know her background. They haven't traveled here and been asking around about her. They're just praising up what this year come overseas and do. Because if you see what they do to those people when they do good, they praise them up and they promote them. But then when they find out about the transgressions, they completely like obliterate them. You get me? They don't waste time with them. So like after finding out about anything bad about you, what you've done, they don't waste time on actually like canceling you. You get me? So I know
Yep.
for sure she basically as a foreigner to the other countries obviously, they wouldn't waste no time with her. But the fact of the matter is that she does it and she gets away with it and then she laughs it off and then we are oppressed not to speak up about it. And if you would have seen recently as it relates to the situation at the Spring Memorial School and whatnot, nothing really came out of that. No one with no superiors in her government, her administration basically was sanctioned. And the teachers on top of it were telling the students not to speak up about it, don't speak to the media. So you know what is it? You be traumatized having gone through something like that, and then you can't speak, you can't vent the frustration. You have to keep it in and suffer. That's like that mentally takes a toll on you. And some people they just escape the suffering with somewhat commit suicide. And that's nothing nice because then you think about the parents there, and some parents can't handle it, and some parents might decide to join the children because some people are
Hmm.
very passionate about the children. Some people can't live with them and can't live without them. So
Just letting you know that you were breaking up a little bit. You were coming and going. So I don't know if it's a connection that you might have in terms of your device, but you were just breaking up a little bit. We were losing you in some of your comments, and we want to make sure that we get everything you say clear, because it's important for all of us to hear where you guys are sitting in terms of the matters to do with our country and our region for that matter. Because I know, Roger, you are from Nevis, I believe you mentioned. You're living in Trinidad, and there are things happening throughout our region that are going to affect all of us. So we really want to hear what you guys have to say. Jonathan, would you introduce yourself? I know you've been on the show before, but still good because there may be some of the folk who are viewing tonight. We're up to 317 here at the moment. I think and we keep climbing. So, would you go right ahead and introduce yourself to the platform?
Hi, good night, everyone. Just want to say thank you for having me on the show. I feel very honored to be here with the guests. So my name is Jonathan. I'm 29 years old. I'm a content creator. Um, I do photography, videography, graphic design, and I'm very passionate about the youth. So anything affecting the youth definitely catches my attention, and I do have a lot of grave concerns for our youth today, because very often when it comes to them, persons are very quick to point the finger at the youth, saying that they're this way, they're that way, but there's no such thing as a bad child. I think it all really starts in the home. Um,
and the
not
ambience
pardon.
and the ambience as well.
Yes, definitely, and the need for discipline as well. I find, not saying that you can do your best with the child, but at the end of the day, they still have to make their own decisions. But when I believe when brought up a certain way, the least they will do is respect the authority that's in the home. So Yeah, that's basically me. I have an organization called Positive Vibes Creative Revolution, and the aim of that organization is to look for needs in society that are relevant to our youth, and to address them, or to bring solutions to those needs through projects that we currently do. Right now, I've successfully done a project at Dayton Griffith Secondary. It's called Join the Vibes. It's a project where we got young people to come, the young ones from first to fifth form, to come and give a positive message that they try to live by. So instead of the normal situation where it's the adult telling the child, giving the child advice, we're actually letting them get the advice from their peers, from those who are striving to be better, and also to show that not all of our young people are bad. We have good young people out there trying to do the right thing, trying to be positive, but it's like, when you do something negative in society, you get all the attention, but when you do something positive, there's no attention drawn to that. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So the basis of
Because
that project was to give attention to the positive young people.
Well,
as a
absolutely.
content creator too, you should know that the negativity sells clickbait.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah, well,
different content creator, man. I'm a content creator for God. And I'm allowing him to guide and direct how we do things, and
That's
it's
good.
gonna be very different from the norm.
well, the bottom line is that we the thing that we're fighting for, not just in our country, I think in the entire Caribbean, is that we're fighting for the values of our societies, and I think these values are going to affect all of us. It's going to affect at my stage of life. It's going to affect at your stage of life. If I don't know what your status is in terms of marriage, etc., but if you have children, it will affect them. When those children have grandchildren, it will affect them. I mean, tonight, as KEMAR was sharing concerning the indebtedness of Barbados to the International Monetary Fund, a long time after Madam Motley has gone, our
Yeah,
children and our grandchildren are going to be paying the
yeah,
debts.
yeah.
And that is the concern for me as a grandparent. I mean, I'm a parent and a grandparent. The Bible's injunction is a good father leaves an inheritance for his children's children. I don't want to leave an inheritance of debt,
Exactly.
for my children's children.
I'll,
And sorry.
I'll speak to that because what I tend to like picked up from it is that the debt is in US dollars, in it. Or
Yeah, yes, it is. Well, I think Kimar showed tonight that it was in Barbados dollars, but I believe when the International Monetary Fund talks about it, it's
it's
in
in
US
US.
dollars.
Right.
Yes.
So what I'll say to that is if anyone here is paying close attention, we would acknowledge that there is the BRICS currency and the BRICS nation that is currently about to take over in the new year coming, the 1st of January. Now, the BRICS nation is basically the abbreviation of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. That makes up 60% of the global population and also a significant percentage of the global trade and whatnot. Now, America is a country basically that 60% of its imports come from China. Now, it has also been said that 55 US dollars would become equivalent to one BRICS currency. You get me? So,
Hmm.
what happens? It's like America spending 55, the current now, America spending 55,000 US dollars to import 60,000 eggs from China. So, you as a retailer now, you can sell that egg next to nothing and still see a profit like 50 cent, 70 cent, 80 cent, still see a profit. The consumer's happy. You get me? Because the produce is basically at all-time low. No. However, when the US dollar crashes, and it's also on its way to crash too, when it crashes significantly, like I said, 55 US dollars will be equivalent to one BRICS currency. So that's now like America. That's like America spending $55,000 to import 1,000 eggs. So now you as a retailer, in order for you to see a profit, you don't have to price that produce at an exorbitant rate to see a profit. So now you're looking at an egg that once upon a time you would have paid 50 cents for. You have to pay $300 and some for one damn egg. Now, as you know as a consumer, no logical person would damn sure pay $300 and some for no egg.
You're cracking up a little bit. Just letting you know, you're cracking up a
Right.
little bit.
Right. No logical person is not going into a nurse store and paying $300 and some for one egg that once upon a time you paid 50 cents for. You get me? So being that people cannot afford those at exorbitant rates, what are they getting obliged to do in desperation to survive? Look the damn stories. You get me? So now
Right,
you, as a store
Pastor.
owner,
Right, Makir,
store owner,
you
you
cracking up so bad. You cracking up. It's hard. It's very hard to hear you. See if you could fix the at least turn off the camera or so. I try to see if you get the volume going, and then
and,
you could
and we
come
and
back
we
in.
want to keep and
In
we
the
want to keep
meantime,
civil. All right,
do we try
we
to
want to
hear?
keep civil. We want to keep civil. In the meantime, I want to
can you hear
hear.
me?
Yeah, we got you. We got you
Right,
there.
right, right, right.
We'll come back to you if I can in a
Right.
minute because we just wanted to hear a little bit from. Is it Roger?
Roll J, yes.
Roji, concerning the status of things in Trinidad. You're there in Trinidad on the ground.
Hmm.
How are things? How are you finding things there?
So, I mean, if you read the newspapers every day, you'd be quite a depressed person.
Yeah, very, very.
And that's from an outsider. And as an outsider in any country, one of the things I like to do is, pick up the papers, or in this day and age, like go on the news websites and to find out what is going on. And even as you interact with people across the nation, you sort of get an indication of what's happening. And so, I mean, I think everyone in the Caribbean would know about the crime situation in Trinidad and how that is affecting young
Horrible.
people.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
and I mean, it's not
Bloodshed
only
every day.
Trinidad. It's
Bloodshed
all,
every damn day. It's sad,
yeah.
boy. I see the videos of them. I see people just everyone's just talking about killing, 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 killing. It's not stopping. It's
Mhm,
very out of hand.
mhm.
It is, and
And
I believe the problem is, you see, the problem is, and it's not only just Trinidad, as you said,
Uh, Mak-
even in Barbados, even first year.
Makil, just give Makil,
Yeah, go
Makil,
on.
just give Roger a time to finish. Just give Roger a time to finish his points. And then you respond after. But just get a chance to develop uh the points that he's trying to make, please.
All right, go on.
yeah, so I was mentioning that it's not only unique to Trinidad. I mean, in terms of the magnitude of the situation and the numbers, it's quite terrible in Trinidad because they've already gone past 500 murders for the year. Um, but across the Caribbean, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, I'm sure it's the same in Barbados, St. Kitts and Nevis. The crime situation is really, really terrible. And most times when you hear of murders, it's usually people under the age of 25, and particularly a lot of teenagers, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds. And so that in itself, it it spells danger for young people because at the end of the day, you have to look at where these criminals springing from. You're not born a criminal, so there must be something happening in the society between birth and and possibly your end of your high school years that would create criminals. And the governments of the CARICOM, they speak about it quite often, but we're still not getting any solutions on it. So I don't know what to say to that. But in terms of young people in Trinidad, and what's affecting them, I'd definitely say criminality. And then you also have the issue of brain drain, and interacting with many young people. So many of them look forward to migrating. It's ridiculous when you ask them what are your plans after university, and they say, if something doesn't work out here, I'll go to the US or Canada or the UK. And that's not a good sign.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, Roger, we have a similar situation here in Barbados. Even when I talk with my sons, I mean, they're in their 30s, their late 30s, and the thing that they tell me is the whole aspect of revenue generation and job opportunity in Barbados. I mean, every year we turn out approximately 4,500 people into the workforce. That is approximately 1,500 from UWI full campus, and probably about 3,000 from secondary school, where those 3,000 are either going to want to get into the job area, or they're going to want to go to university, whether it's in Barbados or overseas or wherever. But more likely than not, if they follow the trend that I did, I started to go to university, eventually had to end up going to work. That's just the reality of it. So we do have these challenges around, and I think one of the things that we're facing is, as KEMAR has been showing. I don't know how much you heard when you all actually entered the back room, as to what KEMAR was sharing relative to the economy, and how the indebted crisis that we are facing, how that is affecting the entire operation of the country, how it's affecting what can be made available for young people. I was having a quick chat with a young person, having my car cleaned up, and there was a gentleman from St. Lucia there that was cleaning the car. And one of the things he made the point was, that he's not hearing the government talk about any opportunities for the young people, even to access funding to do what is this that Jonathan does? Content creation. You are in biochemistry. You, Mikhail, you're in your interests. I understand from what you shared had to do with immigration, and where's the funding, KEMAR, in terms of the economy that we've been discussing? Where's the funding for these young people to get their work done, to get their jobs done?
Well, tax dollars was supposed to do that for us. However, $1 billion of it have to leave the country every year to go to pay loans, right? Then there's financial corruption, theft of taxpayer dollars, where like inflated government contracts and any other way that money leaks out to the government. And then there's administrative priorities. If the government actually puts weight behind the priority of youth issues, or if they do even see it as a priority. So if there's not the public funding attached to it, and there's no real administrative support, the industry from the government's end, then the private sector will be very reluctant to provide it. So with the Ministry of Youth that we have, the budget is very minuscule. It's actually one of the smallest ministries that we have. So to me, that does not indicate, especially in the context of an IMF program, that you could actually allocate the monies to the Ministry of Youth a substantial amount. Um, well, you could, because if you have programs, as program you give hotels 300 million free dollars. If you have things like white O, of instances where monies that have been collected goes unaccounted for, you could definitely find money in the budget to put to youth issues and providing the financial and admin supports for it. But it's just a matter of priorities.
Just to add there, and it was just this evening I was thinking about it. We in the Caribbean spend so much money in recurrent expenditure that it's almost impossible to invest in anything else, to invest in youth. And I'm sure Kima, as the economist here, would agree with me. We spend so much, just paying salaries, for example, and back home in St. Kitts and Nevis, the government is the main employer, and that in itself is problematic. The minute you have the government employing the majority of people, then there's nothing else left for any sort of investment when you have to be spending um what $100 million every year just in salaries for a nation of 50,000 people. um so even just looking at that, you're stifling development in other areas, just by the government forcing itself as the major employer of people and young people.
Well, you're in a country, Trinidad and Tobago. I've lived there for 3 years. It's like my stomping ground, so to speak, for many many years. And my understanding is that 68 to 70% of Trinidad's GDP is entrepreneurial driven. And I mean, Trinidadians make business out of anything, out of mango skins, out of plums. The entrepreneurial area of Trinidad and Tobago is very massive. It's a massive. I mean, you can walk into these supermarkets and see it in the supermarket. I would never forget going in a high-low store many years ago and seeing about 15 different brands of pepper sauce, all locally made. None were imported. Not one was imported. but all locally made. So my view where government has always been concerned, or my view always has been where government is concerned, I should say, is that there are facilitators in terms of helping the people to generate business, which inevitably is going to benefit the country. What are your thoughts on that, Jonathan? You're into the aspect of creative. Let me make sure I get it right. Content creator or content creativity, and I'm wondering in the context of something like that, how could that generate income for our countries, Barbados, and of course St. Kitts, Nevis, Anguilla, Trinidad. How could something like that generate? Because Kemar and myself were earlier talking about the fact that we are paying our debt by borrowing money to pay our debt rather than earning income. The only income generator we have at the moment is tourism. So how can something like that, and maybe Mikhail and you, Roger, could treat to some of the things that you as young people could see going forward that could generate income? The country needs to make income.
Yes. So being a tourism driven economy, I always say that I believe that our creative area is one of our strong suits. We always say we have so much creativity in Barbados. We have so many talented young people. But for me, what I've seen, our climate doesn't facilitate for that. Doesn't facilitate for them. And the thing is, with tourism, a big part of tourism is people want to come and have a unique experience. When they go to these different places, they want to see something that's different. They want to see something that's new. What better way to do that than through our creative community, you know? So I see content creation as a way of highlighting the unique culture that Barbados has to offer, you know. But I think first it needs the foundation being laid for those creatives on the island to have a platform or to have a space where they could come and they could create, and we could create our own culture. Because unfortunately, because our creative community isn't really catered for outside of certain genres, we get a lot of our culture now, or I would say the young people get a lot of their culture from America now. They get more of that from the international market, and we've lost a sense of what makes us as a result. You know, and when I go to these schools today and I speak to children, they have American accents, and I'm like, how are you having an American accent and you're just a child, you know? And like these are, and it's not that to say that these people, or they've traveled or anything like that. Some of them never even traveled, but they watch so much YouTube and they're influenced so much by outside cultures that in a couple of years from now we could actually lose that as a people, you know. And I think the way to get that back, I think one of our driving factors before was CBC. Back in the day when you would have your days of our lives and stuff, but we had stuff like NIFCA and the performing arts and stuff where the people will come together and be excited to see what our creative community had to offer. But I find we don't have as much as that now, or at least it's not is to the young people, it's not interesting enough to actually for them to pay their attention to, you know. So I think the way to do that is to accommodate our creative community outside of the mainstream markets, which is mainly like corp over or whatever you, and like to show all the different facets of creativity that we have. And whether that be a center, whether that just be a space where we can come together and we can create, you know. And we have so much talent here again, you know. And also it could be used as a way to get us to stop seeing ourselves as the competition. Because I was telling someone earlier today, like Barbados is too small for us to be competing with each other. Like if you're an artist or you make music, and let's say you sell out in Barbados, you sell it to every single Barbadian, that's only like 300 somebody thousand people, you know. So we need to stop trying to compete with each other, and create that sense of community spirit where we when we see our brothers and sisters doing stuff, we could come together and we can say, no, what, let's make a song and put that on the international market. Let's show the world what we have to offer, you know. And I think that could do a lot, because we do have a lot of creative people here. We have a lot of intelligent people here, and I feel that if we use that as our resource, and we market that, then we could find various ways in making that create generate more income for the country.
Yeah, because I was thinking as you were speaking, the whole aspect of exporting our creative capability. Now,
Mhm.
I'm not sure whether that would be in the persons, because I think all of you mentioned the whole aspect of people looking outside to work and looking to go overseas, finish university. What are they going to do? They're going overseas to work. I think there's still a huge capacity for our creative capabilities to be sold out of Barbados. As to whether we have the creativity to engage that or not is another matter.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to look at some notes here, because one of the things, KEMAR, you can correct me again if I'm incorrect. I hear a lot about money generated by tourism.
Mhm.
But my feeling is that the only time that happens is when a tourist changes money at a teller, a machine, into cash and spends it locally. Because when they make payment at a hotel restaurant, it's on a Visa card. And that Visa card is payment from their accounts. It does not, as far as I'm aware, come into the revenue generation of Barbados. That's actually being paid outside of Barbados, into the Visa, Mastercards, or whatever it is. I could be wrong, but that is something that was expressed to me. Kimar, I don't know if you could shed some
Yeah,
light on
well,
that with us.
Well, it starts from the hotelier side, where when a tourist makes a booking to a hotel in Barbados, the money does not come to Barbados. The money is booked through the parent company in Miami, because most of the hotels here have parent companies in Miami, so the transaction never comes here. It's billed, but the money does not filter through here. Most money hotels have exposed to Barbados is maintenance and property, plant and equipment, wages and salaries. The profits and the wealth of hotels from the booking side do not come into Barbados. When a tourist comes here, the most of them shop duty free. So as I heard a musical artist say, how can a tourist come to my country and get things cheaper than me? And that is what's called duty free, right? But tourists come here and shop duty free, which means that the government don't benefit from the revenues, right? But still they would pay airline companies to bring airplanes full of people to subsidize airplane seats, to bring tourists here to shop duty free, right? So the upfront investment that the government is willing to put in tourists and tourism to do all of that, to then bring them here to shop duty free, it don't make sense any longer to me, right? So we need to look at that system. We need to look at the strategic way government is investing in tourism, because when COVID hit, who the hotels had to rely on in terms of offering staycations and day passes and family weekends? Barbadians. The same Barbadians they ignored constantly for all of these years. They then had to rely on Barbadians to fill hotels, and then the government had to rig up a system to give the hotels free money when they forced the hotels to be quarantine sites, when the tourists were not coming here, right? So they need to relook that.
Well, Mikhail, I think I got that right. Mikhail, I heard you mention something about politics, and immigration. I think you mentioned something about your one of the areas that you're looking at in terms of your political involvement is in the area of immigration. Am I right in that? When you did your introduction, I think your mic is off.
Yes.
Yes. Well, in terms, I mean, you hear some conflicting things coming from the government. We have a country that has got a reducing workforce, and they're looking to import people from overseas. I hear something. I hear something about trying to get Barbadians to have more children. But I don't know that that is a workable solution, because to have more children, you have to be able to afford them. And I think one of the challenges we are facing right now
But
is affordability.
exactly.
You're
No,
still cracking up. We're still getting your cracking up on. I don't know if it's the connection you have in terms of your device,
Time to turn off
or
the
what,
camera. Turn off the
or
camera and
camera.
speak from the microphone.
Yeah, let's see if that makes a difference. Go
can you
ahead.
hear me now?
Yeah, we're hearing you. You'd have to speak so we can see if the breaking up has stopped.
Right. So my problem is that
Yes,
Mayor
yes, good.
Motley, she herself, she said in the year 2018 when she took up office, she said that Barbados is underpopulated, so we have to turn to immigration to bring immigrants to help sustain our population. Now, you see my challenge to that is you took up office knowingly of an unemployment crisis and a poverty crisis in this country. And when you look at the mathematics and the statistics of it all, it is mathematically, statistically impossible for her to rectify it domestically, which is so went ahead to pump more immigrants into the country, only to push more patriotic Bajans rooted here out to work, only to push more into crime and poverty and jail and homelessness in the cemetery. No, you see, she came back the other day, 4 years down the line, and I believe she has like amnesia because she says things that she forgets. No, she said the other day that no, the Barbados population is in decline and it's in a national crisis. Now, my question to that is: so, what was the purpose of you flooding this country with a bunch of foreigners there for the past 5 years? Then did it not help sustain the population? The reason why you said you bought them in the first place? You get me? No, you see, the take on that is that a lot of the foreigners that come here, all of them end up in the lower income sector. And as low income earners, we survive basically paycheck to paycheck. That's the vast majority of our country. You get me? So bear in mind, as foreigners coming here, the essential things that they need to caretake for are basically they have to pay rent, and a studio apartment costs like 800, 900 now with this the exorbitant cost of living. A two-bedroom costs like 12, 1300, 1400. A three-bedroom costs like 15 and up. You get me? So they have to pay rent, which is incumbent. They have to pay groceries. They have to pay for groceries, and then they have to pay for like allowance and whatnot. And like the bus fare is killing everyone. So by the time you're done spending all taking care of all those three essentials, and then on top of it, a lot of them that migrate here, all 99% of them they have children back home. So a lot of them just work and take their money, do what? Send it right back home out the country. You get me? So they're not coming here to serve the purpose that she claims she brought them here for. So you see, the thing about that is that they don't care about serving the purpose that she brought them here for. So now the leg up now that the Bajans of descent have on them as foreigners in that regard is that the average one of them, they themselves have the privilege of still living at home under mommy and daddy's two-bedroom, three-bedroom house roof. So a lot of them don't have to pay rent. So the $900 in rent that the foreigners have to pay, the 1,300, the 14, 15, the $1,600 in rent that the foreigners have to pay. Now that is money that the Bajans don't have to pay in rent. So that is money that they can now take had they been given first option to the employment before the foreigners. That is money they can now take and support a kid or two or three or four. But because they're not getting first option to the employment before the foreigners, they can't get it done. You get me? Because these children that she wants to go get, they don't eat grass and drink molasses. We don't want her to pick up the money to support these children. You get me? It costs
Well, we,
money.
we we don't even mind if they drink molasses, so that's rich in vitamin B. But we don't want them to drink grass. We don't want to eat grass. Molasses
Right.
is good stuff. I just let me let you know, but we can't get enough molasses because we only got one sugar factory now, and we can hardly only produce 11,000 tons of sugar. So you must understand how little molasses we're actually producing.
Right. Right. So no, bear in mind, in order for you know to think the plan for parenthood, you must have a job, you must have some sort of legitimate, sustainable financial income, whereas you can take care of yourself first, then you can go plan with your significant other, then to bring that human into this world. If you don't have that, then you can't plan. You get me? So it's like you want these exorbitant results in population growth and whatnot, but then you're not giving us anything. You get me? So it's like you're taking 10 steps forward and 20 steps backwards. We ain't going nowhere. We're stagnant. And she is the one to blame for it. She's the one who's remotely controlling it to be this way. She's the one who's systematically oppressing us.
The funny thing about it as you're speaking is that she's talking about increasing the workforce, but by the same token, she's signing on to agreements that carry enshrined in those agreements content to do with sexuality that treats to the number one aspect of abortions. Because I don't know how you're going to have an increase in a national population if you're signing on to agreements that talk about women's health rights. And what they really are addressing is not the right of women to have access to good health care. That is not what they're talking about. They're talking about specifically abortions. And if in Barbados we want to push that type of an agenda, we can see why there's a need for people to come in from overseas. Now, I travel regularly to the Cayman Islands. Cayman Islands currently has a population of about 68,000, of which less than 30,000 are Caymanians. Somewhere in the ballpark of about 30 or 32,000 are actually Caymanians. And the problem there is, I've asked that there's a similar issue in the Cayman Islands that we're talking about, but the problem there is that very often the nationals are not prepared to take on the menial work that these expats or these foreigners are going to take on. What is the situation here in Barbados? I mean, are Barbadians, do we have, because we have to look toward the youth now, are the youth going to be prepared to take on the menial task of cutting the grass on the side of the roads, these kind of things that the foreigners may come in and do because they want to make a Barbados dollar, US dollar to get sent back home to their parents? What's happening in the context of something like that?
Well, what I
Well,
was saying,
Pastor,
Yeah, go ahead.
right,
Go ahead, Kimar.
right. Um, it's a context to the conversation from the policy level where the government made two purpose attempts to boost population in Barbados. But not, well, it made more than two, but I'm gonna speak about two specifically. One, the Caribbean Community Movement of Skills National Amendment Act to 2019, which was able to revise the categories of persons who are eligible to be recognized as skilled community nationals to include artists, musicians, media persons, sports persons, cultural workers, agricultural workers, domestics, nurses, teachers, and to revise provisions relating to the indefinite stay of skilled community nationals and dependents, which are the children of skilled community nationals in Barbados. And then the government passed also the Government Act, which was called the Welcome Stamp, which allowed some earners to relocate to Barbados and to work in Barbados, let us say remotely, right? Um, Persons relocated to Barbados through the actually got the international interest, where persons from the wider world was coming into Barbados. Some of them we caught with the indefinite stay, uh, and that would have helped. What is really happening is that the government is attacking it by changes to the same sexuality principles. They're attacking it that from that angle. The institutions they set up was basically an international tunnel to allow people to migrate easy through the Welcome Stamp and the changes to the Caribbean Community Act to allow people to come in through the Caribbean. The special thing to this is about thing. When people migrate into Barbados, a high level of voter apathy in Barbados, and even in the city of Bridgetown, we have a lot of non-national voters from St. Vincent, Jamaica, St. Lucia, and a lot of them vote in elections in Barbados. Eh, So when you have persons migrating into Barbados, government is really boosting and bolstering its support so that if the local population become so apathetic to voting to the administration, they then just allow mass immigration into the country to boost up voter numbers, because when an immigrant comes to a country, they most likely vote for the government that has allowed them in, and not against that government to run the risk of being uh, kicked out anti-immigration laws. We can see that happening all around the world. Um, I see that the fellas have dropped out. Oh,
Yeah, I saw Mikhail kind of wave. I thought he was trying to do something with the, if he could be heard or something like that. I see he's dropped out. I see Roger has dropped out as well. I don't know if they're having a problem signing back in, because
yeah,
I saw Roger. Anyhow, you continue.
yeah. Well, McKeel said he had to go. Right, he said he saw he had to go. But yeah, so we are having serious challenge here where the government is seeking to boost its support, and that is why you see the government trying to push its Caribbean image, and you see that on TikTok and other social media programs saying that they will like the latest prime minister to the Caribbean and build a voice for the Caribbean and speaking the Caribbean issues. But CARICOM is so divided at this moment, it's not even funny. As far as I know, Jamaica and Barbados always have tensions at the CARICOM level. And there are so many times that they show us that CARICOM is divided at the level of prime ministers. Because in my opinion, the people of the region don't really have much input as to what CARICOM is. CARICOM was conceptualized at the level of parliaments and prime ministership and foreign ministers. But there was never a system really where actual residents of CARICOM fed in as to what they would like the Caribbean region to be like. Barbados destroyed LIAC. Like every regional air carrier that we had in the region was destroyed by the Caribbean government. Jet was destroyed. BWIA was destroyed. Air Jamaica was destroyed. Right? We are connected by water. We've never had a functioning ferry system in my lifetime. We're so close, but we go to other countries and get onto ferries and go distances that are much further than the Caribbean. But for some reason, the Caribbean governments and leaders of the Caribbean seem to can't get it right as to put things simply in place that we can become more connected, because every one of us has somebody from the islands that's a family member to us. We're more connected that way. In terms of connectivity, in terms of active trade, we don't do that through the region because, remember, at the level of governments, it make it hard for you to connect. Can't get air travel right. They put so many taxes on the air travel and killing the industries. How many of you know that the reason why most of these airplanes tank is because the taxation levels on the tickets are actually much higher than the actual cost of the ticket? Same thing that they're doing with our electricity and our water. The governments of the Caribbean are doing that. The Caribbean people taxing the industries with more taxes than the actual cost. So I want to get Jonathan here now to hear his perspective also as a young person. These regional leaders continue to stagnate integration.
Well, I'm glad that you asked the question, Jonathan. You're muted if you're saying anything. Your mic is muted. Yeah, good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I always felt like it is needed and necessary for us as the Caribbean to become more united. Um, I think doing so would benefit us greatly on the international market, because certain things we may not have access to, maybe because of our population, and in terms of the international market, things are very competitive, and they look at stuff in terms of the population and how much potential customers would be in which countries and stuff like that. And if we present ourselves as one, not only would it be unifying to us as Black people, but it'd be unifying and beneficial to all of our economies. But it seems to be something that's very difficult. We've been trying to do this thing for years in terms of CARICOM, and I haven't seen any huge very beneficial or significant progress made. We've had kind gestures throughout the years, but I haven't seen anything that's sustainable and that's binding for us as a people. Um, Back in terms of the content creation and how is beneficial for us here in Barbados. I think we live on a beautiful island, and I think we a lot of people, a lot of tourists, when they come here, they understand that, and they get that. And our people here, again, I always say our people are our our resource, you know. So, and I think that it's something that definitely needs to be preserved. But I feel like outside interests are being more on the table than the people's interests in terms of when it comes to policy and things of that matter, you know. And I think that definitely needs to be rectified, because at the end of the day, what is a country without its people? You know, what will it mean in a couple of years when a young person isn't able to buy land in Barbados because the cost is just so astronomical? What does it mean when you can't even afford certain things just because you're just struggling to make ends meet? You know, so I think we need to to reshuffle how we're looking at things, and instead of looking for projects or ideas that is going to present immediate financial gain, look at things that will benefit us, not just now but in the long run, and something that is beneficial especially for the people. I would have heard Kimar talking about tourists coming in but they're getting duty free. So again, how is that beneficial to us? How is it beneficial to the country, you know? So these are things that we really need to look at. Even up to earlier today, I was talking to someone about the legalized marijuana in Barbados, but the license that they made to get them were very expensive. And not just that, I think I had heard the Rasta community having to make some noise in order to even though they had the money and they were willing to purchase the license, they still had difficulties in terms of getting their business up and running. You know, it's almost as if that wasn't done for the locals, that was mainly done for international investment. And but though international investment may be beneficial to our immediate financial situation, I don't think it's going to be beneficial for our long-term sustainability as a country. So yeah, those are my thoughts.
Jonathan,
Well,
I'm
you,
glad you brought that up.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you brought that up. You just spoke about industry in Barbados. I attended a marijuana symposium at the Central Bank of Barbados. And when I got there, the ambiance of the place led me to understand that it was the Canadians who were leading the push to develop the marijuana industry in Barbados. And the government was allocating lands at St. John for the Canadians to come and plant marijuana there. That marijuana to then be re-exported back to Canada, and that Barbados would then set up pharmacies to then buy back the marijuana from Canada.
right? So it was like sugar. It was like exactly what they did with the sugar cane. They were doing with the marijuana. They priced the licenses so high and out of the reach of the average man, and say to the Rastafari that they will not be allowed to use it for personal or recreational uses other than in their church. But the Rastas, as Jonathan said, had to argue that that was crazy. You should allow us personal use as we were the ones who traditionally fought for it. There's persecution for it. A lot of their people are still in prison for it. The least you could do is allow them being the first stakeholders to have a seat at the table. But it's
So,
true.
so Kamar, we recently saw. I recently saw an article to do with the establishment of a pharmaceutical industry in Barbados, and I don't think it was treating to the medicinal marijuana. And I stand to be corrected. I saw something in the media to do with the establishment of a pharmaceutical company in Barbados. Can you shed some light on that for us?
Well, the government intended to establish a pharmaceutical industry with Ghana, and I think that was Paul Gibson's idea. Paul Gibson, the pharmacist, he actually wrote to the government detailing them setting up a pharmaceutical industry through the region. Uh, Paul Gibson, as far as I know, worked for some of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world.
Yes.
I'm sure probably sometime you could get him on the show to discuss the industry, the pharmaceuticals and the health industry is looking like in the modern day. But that pharmaceutical industry stems from the relationships that Barbados signed with Ghana. If you can remember, we actually had Ghanaian nurses working in the hospital.
Yes.
And Barbados actually signed treaties with Ghana, which allowed the exchange of labor and the exchange of some skills and the exchange of investment. Um, so that was part of that.
You spoke about the whole aspect, and I had made a couple of notes here. Jonathan, you spoke about the aspect of some of the issues in terms of the CARICOM speaking as a unified body. But there are a couple of things I wanted to just throw out to you. One had to do with the fact that many of the agreements that are signed by government, um, they tie us into certain conditions that often don't facilitate locals. And I'm glad Kimar, you dropped out just now, Kimar. I'm glad you're back. Um, some of these agreements just don't facilitate local persons, because the conditions of agreements are not determined by Barbados. It's a case of he who pays the piper plays the tune. If you're going to borrow money, borrowing comes with conditions. Even grants come with conditions that you don't have to repay. And it would appear that these agreements that are being signed on to do not really get down to the grassroots of impacting the well-being of the people in the country. All right, and when we talk about CARICOM, you take this Samoa agreement that we were discussing a couple of days ago. CARICOM did not approach this from a CARICOM perspective. Every individual country in the CARICOM region um, determined whether it was signed on to the Samoa agreement or not, rather than facing it as a unified body. Mind you, the European Union faces things as a unified body. But when it comes to our region facing things as a unified body, it is almost as if they try to divide, and that is the strategy, as you know, divide and rule. Okay, so our CARICOM countries do not come together as a unit, which would be stronger. There's strength in unity. Sitting down to decide what we as a CARICOM region are going to decide. We can sit down and decide that on Venezuela and Guyana, but we can't sit down and decide that on the Samoa agreement. that is going to impact us, but we're going to go with the determination of the European Union in that agreement as it relates to colonizing us again, is how I put it. You know, I know that you, as a young person, there are things that would be of great concern to you in terms of how you see the future. And KEMAR is it was treating to the whole aspect this evening of our indebtedness and our economic growth and development. And I just wonder if you could see something change, if you could see things brought to the forefront that would be of a benefit to the country. What are some of the things that you would like to see as a young person? We've had the other two. I don't know if KEMAR, you can try to reach Roger, because I saw him just drop off. I don't know if he's having a problem signing back in. But I just wonder, Jonathan, what are some of the things that if you could make changes to how things are now, what are some of the things that you would like to see?
I would like to see more investment in social work and in our youth. I find a lot of young persons are finishing school and they don't have like the basic know-how. Should I say the know-how or the ability to be competitive in the workforce? And I'm talking about in terms of representing themselves, being able to to speak or to be able to write a CV and to do these basic things. I think we need more social workers in the schools, because when it comes down to learning, what your mental health and your mental capacity directly impacts how well you'll be able to learn and take information. And doing some of the work that I do in the schools, I see a lot of difficulty, a lot of difficulties that the youth have to face, and as a result, the learning is almost like it comes second compared to those things. And I've seen it directly impact our young people. Um, the reason I'm so focused on our young people is because, again, they're the future. As you said earlier, when the government makes these agreements, is the grandchildren that will have to pay. You know, so we need to facilitate for them. We need to create an environment that is conducive to creating quality individuals. That could be our country's future. I think more care and intention needs to be focused on that. And I'm not talking to create a workshop for a vacation period and call that a day. It needs to be something more that's sustainable and something more permanent. It needs to be a resource that's always available and that's always there, because it is imperative and is necessary. You know. Um, so that is one thing that we need to do. I think another thing we need to look at is, in terms of the education, should be directly linked to what the need is in the current climate in terms of the workforce. Look at what the workforce needs, and then adjust our education, or make our education system in alignment with that. Um, because so often I know a friend of mine, he graduated UB. I can't remember what his degree was in, but he graduated and he was working in a supermarket, packing groceries, and he was finding it difficult to find a job. Some friends of mine, when I was at Polytechnic, I didn't finish my course at Polytechnic, but I have my own business today, and my business has nothing to do with what I studied. And some of the guys who graduated from that same course, I see them working at a gas station. So it's like, again, there's a complete disparity from what we are producing and what our economy actually needs. Um, so these are the things we have to look at. I think, in my opinion, in terms of so many things being for sale in Barbados, like, again, I get we're in a lot of debt and the government is trying to find ways to pay off this debt. But I don't think selling things is necessarily the answer, because when you sell things, eventually, what is there going to be even left to sell? It almost feels like Barbados is for sale. And what happens to the people when that becomes the situation? What happens when there's nothing left to sell? What then, you know? Who's going to bear the brunt of the financial responsibility? The people. So
Well,
we need. Mhm.
no, I was about to say, well, that's one of the issues in the Cayman Islands at the moment, is that the expats are buying up all of the property in Cayman Island, and the same question is being asked there: what is going to be left for Caymanians, and what's going to be left for Barbadians? What's going to be left for Saint Lucians and Grenadians? Um, unless we're able to use our human resources as our income generator, because the number one thing we do have in Barbados are people.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering how we can devise a system that brings our human resources, our potential as far as Barbadians are concerned, to be a saleable product on the international market, because we need to earn foreign exchange, because we're buying so much to import for the maintenance of the type of lifestyle that we have become used to.
I think in terms of this situation again, I feel what made Barbados great in the first place was its people. And I feel like the earlier governments, the forefathers that laid the foundation for us as a people, they understood and they recognized that and they facilitated for the people. And as a result, Barbados got the name that it got. Is because of that Barbadians, people who graduate in Barbados or who have qualifications from Barbados are recognized internationally. And I think if we don't continue to facilitate for that, we lose that. We lose the only thing we have, you know. And I think we need to get back to that. In terms of young people leaving, leaving after they graduate from UWE, if we realize that's what's happening, then we find a way to make that still beneficial for the country, whether it be we facilitate the contracts that our young people get to go on to work internationally, that still helps subsidize or still helps the economy of Barbados. Find a way to make that work for us if we want to produce these people, and is not necessarily what our economy needs. Then market our people to those economies that are looking for the people or looking to poach people from Barbados. And in negotiating that contract, we could then still find a way where we could secure jobs for them when they graduate and they don't feel like they have to abandon their country. They still could feel like they're giving back to their country, even after leaving or even working abroad, you know. But the sense I get is a lot of the young people have to find their best options themselves, and very often that best option that they find is abroad, you know. And it's to the point where I myself, I don't blame them, because at the end of the day, you have to look out for your best interest. If your own country that you want to give back to isn't looking out for you, or is undervaluing what you offer, then go out there and compete.
Hmm.
Go out there and do better for yourself, make a name, you know. So I feel we could find a way to monetize that process of the international market recognizing us and wanting our people, and find a way to use that to still help us, use that to still benefit the country as a whole. And I think that could go a long way as well.
Kimar, as Jonathan was speaking to this, I my mind went back to the days when Barbadians went overseas to work. They went to places like the United Kingdom, and they went to the United States, New York, those Brooklyn and so on, to work, and they repatriated significant sums of monies back into Barbados. Would you be in a position to tell us how that used to affect our economy before, and how is it affecting our economy today? Because it used to be a source of foreign exchange for Barbadians. Am I correct in this?
Yeah, well, I think it started with like the Panama Canal, where Barbadians would have migrated to Panama to help build the Panama Canal and sent back what classified as remittances.
Yes,
And those
remittances.
remittances from Panama, and then the UK, and then the US, and then further Europe helped to build a lot of families here, where people would have been surviving on barrels coming in from overseas, wire transfer payments into bank accounts. So that is how a lot of people survived uh, in Barbados. and it was a good thing because it really helped to contribute to the landscape of our development. So this is where vision comes into play, where Trinidad saw that vision as it relates to investing in Barbados, and they were supported by their government and private institutions as to expanding Trinidadian branded businesses into Barbados. Now, Barbados has to become the visionary country and get the required financial capital to expand Barbadian brands outside of Barbados. So a lot of people trashed it, but when the government allows Shafek to go overseas, I ain't with the aesthetic part of it. I just looking at it from the branding perspective. That was good because you have to get Barbadian businesses branded in other markets to allow for investor interest, to allow for the expansion of Barbadian companies in bigger countries with larger populations where you could create employment opportunities for Barbadians who want to leave the country. I think that was part what Jonathan was suggesting as well. So if we, and a good example here would be Goddard and the Praises. Goddard and the Praises has businesses in Ecuador, right? And if you go down through the Caribbean, you will see one or two other Barbadian brands, not many, in other Caribbean countries. But everybody comes into Barbados to invest. Jamaica comes in, China comes in, UK comes in, the US comes in, Europe come in. Everybody coming into Barbados to invest. But Barbadians not investing in Barbados, and Barbadians not investing in the region. And we need to reverse that trend because we need like a spurt in job growth to get this country up and functioning. So it's either we look at it from a private investment perspective and the government provide the wherewithal to help the private sector expand its reach throughout the region and help send Barbadians and other markets to send back remittances to contribute, or we use the public service, like what St. Kitts did, and to allow persons around 55 to be fully paid and have an early retirement if they wish, and then allow younger people with qualifications and other skills, modern day skills, to come into the public service to help revolutionize it and give young people a chance at working at the highest levels, right? So those are the two options to really help spur job growth in the country. Um, so I'm gonna wrap up on that point. But as I just want after this next point you made, I wanted to show the people the report to the U.S. Congress on
Sure.
Barbados' national thing. But I'll hand back over to you now to take your question.
Well, I have the thing that I'm challenged with is the fact, many years ago, Jonathan, I heard Reverend Dr. Holmes Williams make a statement, and he said this: when your outgo exceeds your income, then your upkeep becomes your downfall. And what I see is that Barbados is not earning money. This is my concern. We are not earning money. We are borrowing money to pay our debts. And my parents taught me a long time ago to do that just simply means you're digging a deeper hole of debt and putting whatever asset you have at risk. Hence, we have heard about the sale of Barbadian assets. I call them Barbadian assets. I've heard about the sale of the government headquarters. I've heard about the sale of the Defense Force. I've heard about the sale in Bridgetown and all these different kinds of things. Now, I said I've heard. It is. Let me see if I can remember the word you use. It is speculated. Okay, I want to be politically correct on this occasion, because that's what I've heard. And to me, you don't have enough, and even if you did, it is not beneficial to the country to sell its assets. I remember during the pandemic, and we had the evidence for this. I can't put my hand on it right now. during the pandemic when Brazil was required by Pfizer to indemnify Pfizer from any fallout regarding the treatments for the pandemic. And in the context of that treatment and the risks and so on, we're asking Brazil to put their national assets at the reach of Pfizer. And Brazil said, no, can't happen. And I have the documentation. I can't remember where it is right now on my computer, but I have the documentation because I treated to it in an online program that we had with Dr. McCullough and several of the others to do with it. But the reality of the matter is that we are facing some very challenging times in my view, as it relates to much of what KEMAR has shared tonight. Our indebtedness, KEMAR, is astronomical, and all we seem to keep doing is borrowing money to try to pay our debt, and it is concerning because at the end of the day, who is going to pay these debts when Madam Motley and you and I and all the rest of us have gone to the great beyond where the white buffalo roam the blue prairies? When we are gone, who is going to be left saddled with the responsibility of cleaning this mess up? So we got to do it now. We got to engage it now. On the aspect of interregional transport, I recently saw an article where, within the context of what is required, the Caymanian, the news media in Cayman obtained, I can't remember what they call it now, KEMAR, where there's by virtue of having to reveal certain things. The Caymanian government had to reveal the fact that all of the shortfall economically and financially for Cayman Airways with its flight between Barbados and Cayman is going to be handled by the Barbados government. So whatever losses Cayman Airways incurs as it builds its routing between here and Cayman, the Barbados government has committed itself to handle that shortfall. And that could
Mm.
be millions of dollars. I mean, I went up on the Cayman Airways flight with 16 people, came down from the Cayman Airways flight with 20 people.
But can you believe the government cut welfare payments to the people of Barbados, but they would turn around and guarantee revenue for an airline they know is not going to be successful? You see, priorities, Pastor Ferdinand, this is what we spoke about. It comes down to a government's priorities. They would not want to take care of the people on welfare because they're poor people, but they would rather subsidize a private airline revenues at taxpayer dollars. You know, now this is our money that they're taking up, not to support our people to save them from the poverty line. You sabotage the people that are already at the brink that are on welfare, but then you would go and guarantee taxpayer dollars to institution outside of Barbados.
I mean,
This is
to be honest with you, I do see some aspect of future development for the routing. But I am hard pressed as to find out why. Why would the Barbados government commit itself to do that? What about the Caymanian government? I mean, it is their airline, and as you know, Cayman. I can't even go to Cayman and open up an account because I don't need my money. So I can't go there and open up an account unless I have ties to the Cayman Islands, either by virtue of owning property there or having a work permit. Now I'm not chastising Cayman because Cayman can't do anything to Barbados that the Barbados government does not permit. But why would we take on for the purpose of that route? What have we traded in establishing that routing? I would have to hear from the Minister of Tourism and others what you see in that route for Barbados to take on the responsibility of subsidizing the shortfall of that airline.
well. you I want you to post the report to Congress, and we will get an understanding as to why such ludicrous things are happening that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Because we did that with the other airlines like Virgin Airlines, which cut a lot of their routes to Barbados, right? The government traditionally did this to subsidize tourism because they know that it will not be successful to allow, or it's not financially, the airlines will not come unless the government agrees to put up this money. So that's why we need to rethink where we travel, and decisions like this. I just don't know. I just don't know what's happening. But I I believe this has something to do with connectivity to the United States, as Barbados, to travel to the States, you have to take connecting flights over to some of these islands to get into the United States. So maybe this is just a subsidy to connect people to get to the United States much faster, maybe. Just trying to spread out there. But
Well, to be
we're
honest,
looking at
Kemar, if you do travel from here to Cayman, the accessibility to the United States of America is significantly more in terms of routings than from Barbados. I mean, we only have Miami, Fort Lauderdale, I think, and New York, and I think maybe Atlanta, or just one or two like that. But there are myriads, based on the airlines that are going into the Cayman Islands from the United States and into other parts of the United States. So the possibility, as you mentioned, does exist. It does exist as well for the ease of Trinidadians going up, people from Trinidad coming in, people from Barbados coming in, tourists who would come here, who could go to the Cayman Islands and so forth. Those aspects I thought about. But I have nothing, I have heard nothing coming from the ministry or from the ministry with regards to things like that.
yeah. So this report here would lead me to understand why we would want to be more connected to the United States, because I've never known that Barbados actually had to report to the U.S. Congress
I didn't know that
on
either.
its loans. The Barbados and Suriname are the two highest indebted countries in the Caribbean, right? And both of them have loan portfolios to the IMF. And I mentioned on the show earlier this week about the government having to report to the US, the United States Congress, what's happening at the IMF. Scroll down a bit whether we could read and we could put it up exactly as we quoting from it. I don't know if you want to go ahead and read some of it.
Well, you guide me as to where you want me to go.
Right, you can read the introduction here of it, um,
Hmm.
so that people you can read the introduction and then read the section where it says Barbados.
Okay, this report provides an assessment of the likelihood that Barbados and Suriname will repay their loans to the International Monetary Fund in full. This report is required by Section 1501 of the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act 2010. Both countries meet the reporting criteria specified in the legislation, namely, both receive loans at a time when the most recent data established that their public debt to GDP ratios were greater than 100%, and neither is eligible for assistance from the International Development Association as directed by Section 1501 and consistent with long-standing practice with respect to all loans, the Office of the United States Executive Director at the IMF, in close coordination with the Treasury Department, conducted a careful and thorough evaluation of the proposed programs for Barbados and Suriname when they were submitted to the IMF Executive Board. The ousted and Treasury, or the OUSED, which would be the United States Executive Director, Office of the United States Executive Director, and Treasury continue to monitor progress under both programs. Barbados. Barbados has struggled to break free from a vicious cycle of low or negative growth since 2008 to 2009 global financial crisis. On October the 1st, 2018, with public debt at around 160% of GDP, the country entered a 4-year extended fund facility or EFF for SDR 208 million, about 290 million. I imagine that would be US dollars. To better manage the impact of COVID-19, Barbados requested and received an augmentation of its EFF, that is Extended Fund Facility, for an additional SDR of 114 million, bringing total access to 323% of quota. Under the program, Barbados's public debt declined to 125% at the end of fiscal year 2019-2020, before rising to 142% due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Do you want me to continue?
Yeah, you could read this section here. It is a little technical, but um, we could
The
read the
area,
part that says because of the need. You don't have to read that
yes,
part.
yes. Because of the need for assistance to respond to the COVID-19 crisis, the United States supported the restoration of access to World Bank Group financing for Barbados, which had previously graduated from eligibility to borrow. Wow. In the Inter American Development Bank, which does not have a formal graduation policy, the United States agreed to support loans to Barbados for the purpose of responding to the pandemic. MDBs, which you would explain that to us in terms of the abbreviation. I think it is, let me just go down a little further. MDBs have subsequently provided significant financing alongside the IMF, which has helped to finance the budget shortfall that emerged as a result of the steep drop in tourism due to the COVID-19 pandemic.
Right. So in December,
2019,
you want?
Barbados complete. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Wait, I was gonna ask if you want me to read some of it, or you want to continue?
No, I'm going to be led by you accordingly. I'm just taking my lead from you as to what you want to do in terms of showing this document.
Right. Well, you could go ahead and continue.
In December 2019, Barbados completed a successful external public debt restructuring following its 2018 domestic debt restructuring to further reduce the stock of debt, public debt, lowering interest payments and lengthening maturities to increase Barbados's repayment capacity. I think you addressed this in your video earlier,
Yeah.
and in your assessment of the graphs that you showed us. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Supported by the IMF program, international reserves have recovered from about 3 months of import coverage pre program to about 8 months of import coverage by October 2021, aided by disbursements from the Inter American Development Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank. Barbados continued to face economic difficulties in 2021 due to exogenous shocks, ash from a volcanic eruption on nearby St. Vincent. The effects of Hurricane Elsa reduced Barbados's projected 2021 GDP growth to 1.6% from 3%. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Multinational Development Bank. Thank you very much.
Right. So
Uh,
so that's the fastest growing economy. The fifth fastest. It sounds like the fifth fastest to you.
yeah, it sounds actually, they were saying that it was the fifth fastest, but that actually sounds like the fastest growing economy. And I trust you can pick up my sarcasm in my voice.
Yeah. Scroll down a bit. Scroll down.
Mhm.
I can see.
I will go slowly, and you can tell me, when you want me to
Right.
stop.
So right. So it said here that under the current EFF, the country authorities have shown strong ownership of the reform program and implementations, and the rapid completion of a debt restructuring reduced the public debt to GDP ratio and improved sustainability of government debt. Well, Barbados met all program targets for June and September 2021. IMF staff proposed modifying some program targets to reflect the effect of the natural disaster shocks, and the IMF noted that Barbadian authorities will need to deliver some more ambitious fiscal adjustments in years ahead to compensate for the loosening of these targets, which means that the targets were not free. So every gift that we were given during COVID, every set of leniency, every bit of relief, we have to pay for it in the future, right? So it went on to say here that the program involves significant risk due to the extensive nature of the structural reforms envisioned in the IMF program and the government's limited implementation capacity and Barbados' still elevated public debt levels. And the IMF staff has loosened Barbados' debt targets as a response to the numerous shocks it has experienced. And the country remains vulnerable to natural disasters and a prolonged global downturn in tourism due to COVID-19. However, Barbados has established a solid history of repayment to the IMF following its two previous programs, and the authorities have shown strong ownership of the reform efforts, which means that the government agreed to do whatever the IMF say after the COVID-19 crisis based off the strong implementation of the program and commitment to
The
reforms.
reforms, yes.
We expect Barbados to repay the IMF in full. So if you scroll down here, it says here that the status of Barbados' debt at the time of the program approval, Barbados' public debt was 157% of GDP. After the debt restructuring in October 2018 and the external one in 2019, the public debt decreased by 36 percentage points of GDP down to 122%. So you see, they did not pay down any debt. They just wrote it off any debt restructuring, which gave them the ability now to go to the market to borrow all of these foreign loans. So then they went on to say that since the beginning of the pandemic, the IMF projects that the public debt has increased to 142% of GDP. So you see automatically massive jump in GDP. And we showed you on the chart earlier that the external debt ratios in Barbados jumped from 26% upwards to 49% under Mayor Motley. So then it went on to say that the IMF projects that the public debt was 142% GDP, mainly due to the contraction of 17% in nominal GDP during the first year of the pandemic. Right? So basically, because this is a little more technical stuff, so I don't want to go on this. So basically, look at what is the report that was given to the United States Congress on Barbados. Does this sound like the fastest growing economy in the world? Does this sound like an economy that has room for young people to realize their ambitions and their visions, be it entrepreneurship, be it academic, be it in Jonathan's content creation? Do you see the room based off what they're saying to the United States? But look at what they're saying to us. This does this sound like what the government says to us locally? Hmm? So over to you, Pastor
Wow.
Ferdinand.
Wow. You know, I must say that there's a lot that's coming out because I didn't know about all of this. I've never known that we've ever had to report to the U.S. Congress, and I made the point some time ago that the United States is the largest donor to the International Monetary Fund, and that in truth and in fact, there is an agenda that the United States government has, making it very clear in the United Nations what their agenda is. And I won't get into that at this point because we are just 15 minutes away from the end of the program. But the reality is that the United States has tied funding to certain moral reforms in countries, and they've made it abundantly clear that failure to do so will have a negative impact upon any funding available from them. Now, earlier, someone I was treating to the fact that CARICOM does not engage things as a unified body. You made the point, KEMAR, that the challenge, and I have said it a long time ago, that the problem in CARICOM is not with the people. The problem is with the politicians. People integrate. The young man from that was on earlier, I'm so sorry that he left, and apparently he can't get back on. I don't know if KEMAR, you can touch bases with him as your guest and see if he's having a problem getting back on. But he's from St. Kitts Nevis. He's in Trinidad. I am in Cayman Islands. We have ministers here that are from Trinidad. We have Barbadians in Trinidad and St. Vincent. We have Vincentians here. We have Jamaicans here. We don't, as people, we don't have a problem integrating. Why do our politicians have such a major problem? And someone made the comment that Africa, the countries in Africa, did not unify, and I dare say that many of the countries in Africa did not unify because there's so much corruption in Africa among leadership in Africa. And there are people who don't want to call a spade a spade. I'll be prepared to do that. And not only that, there is also the aspect of smiling in your face and then well, in most instances, not even behind your back, because I recently watched a brilliant speech by an African leader, brilliant speech to the United Nations, making a case for funding where Africa's development was concerned. And everybody gave him a standing ovation. Within 24 hours, KEMAR, they voted against the funding relative to what the leader in that African state had expressed. And so the challenge that we have, especially coming to us from these wealthy countries, is the capacity to be a united front uh, to engage these larger entities. I remember some years ago, Prime Minister Arthur with the shipwriters agreement, when America wanted to pursue drug lords and so on into our waters without necessarily getting our permissions. And Arthur said it couldn't happen in Barbados. Trinidad gave them permission. Jamaica gave them permission. CARICOM did not come together and said to America, you cannot come into our jurisdiction unless you first engage us as CARICOM sovereign nations. You see, so these are some of the problems that we are facing. And there needs to be significant changes in our political directorate if we're going to see that happening. You're absolutely correct, Jelbiz. If I get the name correct, there's a lot of corruption about in the Caribbean too. You're absolutely correct. That is one of the reasons we can't move ahead in the Caribbean. And I don't want to get into KEMAR, the corruption index. When it comes to the position of countries like Barbados and so on. But I believe that we showed, and I'm going to just let me see if I can stop sharing this particular screen. And if I can then go to the screen that, excuse me, you referred to. I hope I still have the information in the system, and I believe I may not have it. I think I may have. I think I may just have removed it. But the whole matter of let me just see if I can find it back in about Barbados being the fifth fastest growing economy in the world. I don't know if I can find that. Yeah, let me see. I can pull this one up. I'm going to add that one, and then I'm going to add the other one relative to the fastest growing economies in the world. Now, this is a statement. I'm going to put it up on the thing again, where our prime minister indicated, addressing Barbados on the occasion of the 57th anniversary of independence, indicated that Barbados is the fifth fastest growing economy in the world. But it did not come by accident. It was a result of hard work and doing things people said shouldn't be done. But it was a result of the people of Barbados, not a singular person. But it was not as it relates to the fifth fastest growing economy. This is the fastest growing economies in 2024. That is at the end of 2023, real GDP growth projections. There, I do not see, I see Macoa, Guyana, Palau, Niger, Senegal, Libya, Rwanda, Cote d'Ivoire. You all will correct me in all of this. Benin, India, Gambia, Ethiopia, Cambodia, Tanzania, Bangladesh, and on down the line. The fastest growing um, Macao. That some will argue that was the Asia Pacific, but I'm going to add the other
Pastor
one.
Ferdinand,
Yes,
this should not be a shocker, right? Because although as we speak, we all know the Prime Minister, she's in Dubai, she's living sweet in Dubai. Realistically, she's at the COP 28 conference.
yes.
And at the COP 28 conference, they're supposed to be dealing with issues of climate change. By the way, the Prime Minister's Chief Economic Advisor on Climate Change has got a new job, is Mr. Avinash Prasad, and he's all moved on from the government to take on a big position in the same area of climate change and surprisingly gender issues. Right?
What
Um,
does gender issues have to do with climate change?
I know.
What does gender issues have to do with climate change, KEMAR?
Well, he I leave him to answer that one. But she's up there speaking about climate change while still issuing licenses to the Australian firm BHP be drilling oil off Barbados. Right? So Barbados is still issuing licenses to energy companies to drill oil off Barbados, oil exploration, while she is bringing oil to the international world to tax oil companies. So why Barbados tax BHP heavy for wanting to drill oil off Barbados? Why did they give BHP free rein to come into our water, drill and look for oil? And she's saying to the international community to stop drilling oil and to leave the oil in the ground. She's saying to them that, well, we are going to go and dig for oil. You X amount of billions to keep that oil in the ground and don't dig it. That is what's being said. So on one hand, she is being on here on the international community telling the leaders climate crisis and to stop drilling oil and taxing the oil companies. Well, here in Barbados, we have BHP digging up into the beds of Barbados looking for and also sign on to a natural gas exploration deal with Trinidad to allow Trinidad to dig for natural gas in Barbados waters. If that natural gas is found in Barbados, it has to be exported into Trinidad. Then we have to repurchase it from Trinidad, although it was found in Barbados.
That don't make no
Right.
sense.
So well, that's what the
That don't
government
make no
did.
sense.
And
Because we are
Wilfred
capable of developing natural
Abrams,
gas here.
well, they allowed and they signed the deal. Wilfred Abrams, he signed it. He signed this deal when he was Minister of Energy, which allows Trinidad to explore for natural gas in Barbados waters, and wherever natural gas is found, it belongs to Trinidad, and we will have to repurchase it from them. That is what he signed. So our government, the climate warriors, Captain Planet, they are heroes. But in being in their
heroism and heroism, trying to be Captain Planet on one side, trying to save the planet. They are in Barbados issuing the licenses to the same oil companies that are chastising at the UN. All types of free reign as it relates to coming into Barbadian waters to drill our oil and to destroy our coastlines. That is the climate warriors that we have.
Well, I tell you, Kimar, Jonathan, I know you're still in here. We really appreciate you staying. I know there are probably some subjects here that are of interest to you, and Kimar and myself do a good bit of research into these areas. Kimar is our teacher on this platform. Casual unfortunately couldn't make it in tonight. He was attending another meeting because I did see a number of comments to do with the national insurance, and I'm sure that as he revisits the YouTube history for this program, that he will see those comments, and maybe we can address some of them tomorrow night. But Jonathan, when you hear some of these contradictory uh, elements, these people who are fighting so hard for climate change and yet will not give up the wealth that is forthcoming from fossil fuel development. I have my own view on this. I have my own view as an automotive man on this nonsense on this matter of climate change and fossil fuels and so on, because I don't think people understand what is going on when we talk about the changes in terms of the use of fossil fuel over to electrical vehicles and having to dispose of lithium batteries, which only last a maximum of 10 years in vehicles. I want to know what the governments of the world are going to do with lithium batteries when it comes to time to dispose of them. I want to know where are the people who contend for the well-being of children relative to the use of child slavery in Africa to mine the lithium for the production of these batteries. Africa is the largest producer of lithium for batteries. And that's a fact of life. And I don't hear anybody contesting for the children in Africa that are being used in these poisonous environments to satisfy the shift over to electrical vehicles, which are going to pollute the planet worse than ever before. As a matter of fact, I know of trucking companies in America that bought 48 electric trucks only a couple of months later to throw them out and go back to diesel fuel because they almost destroyed a city grid when he started to charge the 48 trucks in the night to transport his goods because the grid couldn't accommodate it. I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if these people ever sit down and complete a thought, carry a thought to a conclusion before they open. We used to say many years ago, be sure, let me see if I can remember it. Be sure brain is engaged before putting mouth into gear. I think is how we used to put it. So these are all things that I believe that as young persons, I know that you must have a view on. And I want to give you the opportunity for your closing comments. It's 9:58. We try to be as tight as we can in the show to end at 10 o'clock. But I'm going to give you the opportunity for your closing comments within the context of all that we've shared. I'm so sorry that we have lost McKeel and Roger. I was really looking forward to having an interaction with Roger and Kimar. Maybe we can have him back and Mikhail on another program along with Jonathan and any others, another youth program. But maybe, Jonathan, you could take a few moments just for your closing remarks relative to all that we would have shared on the show tonight.
I just wanted to say is the contradictions like the ones that were mentioned earlier that causes the youth to really lose trust in governments and in the policies and all of the political matters, because then they feel then like their vote doesn't matter. These things ultimately, there's no hope or is a lost cause, and that really it's really sad that our youth mindset is going on that trajectory, because at the end of the day, these things are still important. These things will still affect us. These things will still apply, not just apply to us, but apply to our children. So I think having this forum where these things are discussed and let the light is being shed on these things, um, you guys should really be applauded for doing that. I just want to applaud Kimar for really highlighting
Yeah,
these things and bringing our eyes to these,
absolutely.
because it what it does when awareness is brought to a thing, then it has to be addressed, and hopefully these discussions we're having are a catalyst to change that changes the trajectory in which things are going on in this country. And that's all I have to say.
Well, that's a lot you said. I tell you, that's a lot you said, because we are praying to that these discussions, you see, this is what we're about, the whole aspect of accountability and transparency. We're and we have been chastised, I mean, even referred to as treasonous because we're raising these questions. It's almost as if to do so, I am in charge and you don't have a right to question anything I am doing. I understand there was a meeting recently in a particular place with a particular person who chastised a whole group of others. And I think there are going to be some things that are going to be coming forth in the next few days that are going to surprise a lot of Barbadians, but I won't say anything more about that. But Jonathan, really want to thank you, and in their absence, to thank Mikhail and Roger. And I hope, Kimar, that we can get them back on in a future youth program. And I hope we don't have too much time between now and that next youth program. I would love to see it before the end of the year. We still have a couple of weeks before the end of the year, and Jonathan, I don't know if you would be able to come back on, but and you remember the last time you were on, there was a young lady that was on with you who I thought was just
Yeah.
absolutely brilliant.
She was on
Um,
fire.
yeah, and I love to sit and listen to what you all have to say. I have children in your age bracket, and they teach me a lot of things about matters of finance and technology and all these kind of things. So we really want to thank you for coming on tonight, along with the others, and expressing your views on so many of these things, which are representative of the views of the young people of our countries, not just our country, of our countries. All right. And we really want to thank you guys for coming on. Kimar, any closing remarks from you relative to tonight, sir?
Yeah, well, I just want to thank guys for coming on. Uh, the conversation. Sorry they had to go and it dropped out. It's always good to have them. I especially want to thank Jonathan. He really put some forceful opinions forward,
Yes,
expanded my
yes.
mind into a lot of different areas that I was able to go on to. So, thanks to you, first Pastor Ferdinand, for holding the fort tonight. Uh, we miss Marcia tonight for sure. We miss Caswell.
Oh,
We miss the
yes. Oh,
others, but
yes. Oh,
uh,
yes.
my understanding they were out at a meeting tonight. So they
Well,
couldn't
I
make it
know
on,
one of
but
them.
I'm
I
sure.
know one of them was, but the other one, I was mandated to say nothing. So I have said nothing. I will leave them to try to explain that when they come back in. But yes, one of them was at another meeting tonight. I won't say where the other one was because that may let the cat out the bag. So I'll restrain from
Yeah, well,
that.
I mean, we will hear from them.
Well,
But
tomorrow,
yeah,
hopefully
but to
tomorrow
cap
night.
off,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. Go
but
ahead.
to cap off, Barbados has some serious challenges in which
Yes.
we
Yes.
need the youth to solve. We need back
Yes.
the community life in Barbados. I don't like the thought of excluding our seniors. Our seniors have a very important role to play in the development of our
Yes. Yes.
definitely need to and to maintain some of our seniors. to give guidance and to give wisdom onto the
Yes,
journey
yes,
in which the young
yes.
people have to solve the problems in the modern era. And
Hmm.
the information is there, we have the talent there as well, but it's for us to try to create more and more and more space and create more and more opportunity. And the way how it is going is only a matter of time before the youth for this country is seriously called upon to step up and solve the national issues, and not only Barbados, but the entire Caribbean region, because the entire Caribbean needs a cleansing through its
Yes,
political, parliamentary, economic, legal, and social systems. And I live for the day that we get to see Caribbean unity in its full life and aspect, where regional integration is actually a thing. Barbados works. Barbados is the leader in the Caribbean. The other countries they work, and the Caribbean as a union, much like how you have the African Union and you have the European Union, the Caribbean Union should be up there as it relates to international affairs and the international political economy of the globe. But it would take the vision of young Caribbean leaders to actually drive that about change, that the Caribbean can actually become a contributor to the world multilateral and development system, as opposed to being the benefactor of aid and hands out and loans and debt. I live for the day that the Caribbean, that people actually come to the Caribbean to borrow loans because they're in trouble. That people come to the Caribbean to get technical assistance because they have legal issues, so they come to our lawyers, which are the best in the world, to solve their problems. I live for that day and for those days, and to completely change this this mendicancy and this underprivileged and undervalued narrative that associates itself with Caribbean people. I live for the day that that is changed. So thank you very much. I had a really good show tonight, and thank you to the viewers, especially. Uh, I look forward to seeing you again. So over to you, Pastor.
Well, I share your sentiments, Kimar, all the way through. I look forward, I would wish there would be a comprehensive cleansing of all of the old political mentalities and mindsets. And it seems the only way you will get that done is to get rid of the old thinking politicians and get some of the new thinking ones into the arena. And I like your suggestion of the mix. This is one of the things that the West Indies team did not benefit from. The West Indies cricket team I'm talking about, okay, the benefit, excuse me, of having the more experienced players in the team while the younger ones are coming in, so that they can benefit from the wisdom and experience of the older ones while you're having the skill and the strength and the stamina of the younger ones. And I think there's a need, the scriptures replete with the combination of the older and the younger ones. I remember a king who did not pay attention to what the older one says when he took over the leadership of the country from his father. Don't recall his name now, but he went to just the younger ones, and the younger ones told him to impose greater taxation and burden upon the people. The wiser ones told older ones told him, no, don't do that. Let's do a gradual shift over to certain things. And he didn't listen to the older ones. He listened to the younger ones. The result was a revolt that took him out of office. So we need to be able to merge the two. And in closing, I just want to say that one of the key components of leadership is the ability to bring the skilled capabilities of people around you together in an open discussion and have views aired without intimidation. And that is something that we do not have politically in the Caribbean, and more specifically in Barbados. People may say, well, yes, we do in terms of the meetings that they're having. Those are constituency branch meetings in which I understand questions are vetted before they're actually aired. And what I'd like to see are constituency meetings where politicians meet the people and hear what the people have to say, because there are a lot of brilliant people in Barbados who have a lot to contribute to the solutions of the challenges that we face as Barbadians. But if that is disrespected and when questions are asked, you're considered to be nefarious and treasonous and creating unrest and all of that rubbish, then it is doubtful that you're going to get that kind of interaction with our people. And so, in closing tonight, I just want to thank you, KEMAR, for navigating a tremendous show with your team, Jonathan and Mikhail and Roger. Even though they weren't on for very long, the other two, Jonathan, we thank you for staying on so long with us. We appreciate you doing so, and I look forward to another show with you young people in the not too distant future. We want to thank all of you who have stayed with us. I think we got up to a bit over 300 and some tonight. And we want to thank all of you with all of your comments. Some are great, some are not so great, some are helpful, some are not so helpful. But the one thing I will say is that the platform gives you freedom of expression. And I thank God for that. I thank God that we can look there, and some may be quite strong and negative to you, some will be strong and positive, and we look at some of those comments and we try to build on them and see what we can do. So I want to remind you of the upcoming symposium. Some of you have been asking if the symposium is going to be okay. I think I may have hit the wrong button there. Some of you were asking if the symposium is going to be streamed. I really am unsure as to whether it will be streamed or not. I will have to find out so that tomorrow night, sorry, when I commence the hosting of the show tomorrow night, I will be able to treat to that aspect of it. I don't see anything on the flyer that suggests that, but I will try to be able to answer that question with you tomorrow night. And to close the show tonight, permit me to close it with just a couple of the ads to do with that symposium. Remember, you can register at the marciaweekshow.com. There's the capacity there for you to register. They are asking you to register by this coming Wednesday. Space is limited, so you need to register as soon as possible. And they're going to be addressing a number of different issues, which the
Friends in
upcoming
Barbados, you're warmly invited to attend an upcoming weekend symposium entitled Recover All, addressing the issues of family, gender, and sexuality. My name is Philippa Davies, an attorney at law from Jamaica, and I will be speaking on the roots and fruits of the so-called sexual rights agenda and how we can contend for truth in the public space. I'll also share on how marriage and family life God's way can reduce crime, improve public health, and boost GDP. The symposium starts on Friday, December 8 at 6:30 p.m., continuing on Saturday, December 9 at 9 a.m., and will be held at First Baptist Church, Constitution Road. Registration is free, but you have to register by Wednesday, December 6 online at the marciaweeksshow.com. Please come out to be educated, edified, and equipped. The battle to preserve the image of God, the Imago Dei, is raging, but we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Looking forward to seeing you. Friends in Barbados, you're warmly invited to attend an upcoming weekend symposium.
Okay, I think I may have hit the wrong button there. Um, just let me see how to. Oh, here we go. So I do want to encourage you to register for that symposium. We have a cadre of tremendous contributors and presenters. Our own attorney at law, Corey Beckles, and Davida Maynard Holligan, both attorneys at law here in Barbados. Davida has been very instrumental in the aspect of the child protection bill. Dr. Victor Gill from Trinidad, president of the TT Response during the COVID-19 pandemic. Philippa Davies, attorney at law out of Jamaica. Dr. Anne Gillis, I think is her name, therapist and author out of Canada. We have Glenn Stanton from Focus on the Family out of the United States. And of course, the moderator, going to be Reverend Paul Leacock. So we encourage you to register on the website, themarciaweekshow.com. And as I said, space is limited. Try to register by Wednesday coming. I think that would be December the 6th. And we look forward to seeing you at the symposium. Friday, December the 8th, commencing at 6:30 in the evening. Saturday, December the 9th, at beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning, with an evening session at 6:30, and it will be held at the First Baptist Church on Constitution Road. Thank you for being with us tonight, all of you who made it here into our midst. Sir Alfred Benjamin, and all of those of you from Birmingham, New York, Brooklyn, Maryland, wherever you were from. Thank you so very much for making this show another success this evening. So until tomorrow night, God bless you. Have a great, great remaining evening of the Sunday, and I trust you have a great start to the new week. So until later, God bless. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow night.